Good morning. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone, live from St. Thomas Sports Park here on this beautiful Monday. Hope everybody's feeling right and living well. We are running a skeleton crew out here today. It's just Lucas and I. They have left us alone without adult supervision. Everybody else is doing the shows from the 104.5 The Zone golf tournament today, but because the Titans are at practice, we are here hanging out. Malik Willis is going to join us after practice today. He'll come over here and sit down at the tent. We'll find out how his training camp experience has gone. And Greg Cosell is in town for Titans practice. Greg and I were catching up on the sidelines. He flew in yesterday from Philadelphia, right in the midst of the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. And so Greg will join us in the noon hour today and tomorrow. Going to be a lot of good Titans analysis for you this week. It's game week, bud.
It's game week.
You excited?
Yes. I think it really crystallizes that football season is here after the first preseason game because you're thinking it's back, it's fun to watch football, you're thrilled about it again, and then you get into the second and third preseason games, it starts to drag on, and you're desperate for the real thing. But the first preseason game is always the best preseason game.
So you make it through the first preseason game without that kind of apathy. You at least make it to the second preseason game.
Oh, yeah. Are you kidding me?
My enjoyment of it typically fades about halftime of these things, of the first one.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
But I think this year listen, we know what the state of the roster is. We've talked about the position battles ad nauseum. You know that the main attraction when these guys get out there on the field on Saturday in Chicago is going to be the quarterbacks, right? It's going to be who starts, who gets more reps, who does better, who does worse, and that's basically going to be the bulk of where people's attention is attracted. But the competition, as it is every year, it's up and down the roster, and you'll see some guys who will matter in meaningful ways. It may not be week 1. It may be week 7 because there's been an injury. You got to pull one of them off the practice squad, and they got to play meaningful snaps. This is where you kind of determine who those players might be. But that's going to be a great place to start with Malik, given that it is game week. And we'll kind of see where his self-assessment of him is at this point. We'll have plenty of time to talk Titans football today, but we had one hell of a weekend at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. There are too many thank yous to give to the people who put the race on, to Liz Allison, who is such a big part of that, to everybody at Edley's and Poncho and Lefties who took very, very good care of us at the Turn 9 Club for the better part of 3 days. It's the only time in my life I've seen Lucas have to come up for air at a buffet. They literally drowned you in food and beverage.
They did. I maximized it. I completely maximized it. It was
brought
so much
you to
fun,
a screeching halt.
Yes. What was the highlight for you?
Oh my God. It's tough for me to not say the race. The race was super compelling.
The main race.
The main race on Sunday. Kyle Kirkwood, and you had Joseph Newgarden at least pushing. He was in the top 5.
Pushing for a podium, red flag with, I think, 5, maybe 6 laps left. Made it interesting there at the end. But, shout out Kyle Kirkwood and Andretti for his second career IndyCar victory.
Can my answer be the Super Trucks?
Yeah, I love how the Super Trucks immediately follow the IndyCar race. So it's almost obviously the main show in town is the IndyCar race.
Yes.
That's why the event is happening. But it almost sets up to where the IndyCar race is like the opener, the appetizer for the Super Trucks.
Yes.
Nothing makes you feel more like a little kid watching those trucks fly 20 feet into the air off of those ramps. I don't know if that's how high they're going.
But more than that. No, I would say those cars are easily 40 to 50 feet in the air at the apex of their jump.
Yeah.
And, I had no idea that these people are 14 and 15 and 16 years old.
You got 14-year-olds driving those things.
They don't have licenses.
It's electric.
How?
Yeah.
How is that allowed?
It's awesome.
I have so many questions. Yeah, my answer is the Super Trucks. Because, we were ready to leave at about 2:30 after the main IndyCar race wrapped up. And then you said, no, you idiot, the Super Trucks are next. There's a jump right in front of your face. Don't go anywhere. And we stayed for the 11-lap main event. It was just awesome. And I know, there's been weather at this thing every year. Saturday was a little soggy, at least earlier in the day, but it ended up working out really, really nice. And, again, the hospitality situation at the Turn 9 Club was unbelievable. So the people at the Zone, Becky Holt and Rich Ferris, who helped us hang out in there, and everybody who was so accommodating. Like I said, the Edleys, Poncho and Lefties, Big Machine, and, of course, everybody responsible for putting on the race itself. Thank you so much for making that an awesome event. I don't know how – I mean, they're going to move it on Broadway. It's going to look electric. It's going to look great. But next year, as a part of this announcement for a 3-year contract renewal for the race itself, it sounds like they're going to pare the racing down, is my understanding. They're going to go from, 7 races to 3 in total?
Yeah, I guess I suppose there's less you can do with the new circuit, and it'll be pushed further down, right, in the calendar because it'll be the finale of the IndyCar season.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting if that kind of overlaps with football season, what that would look like.
The drivers must hate this track. Like, do you think that the changes that are going to be made to the track as a result of putting on Broadway will make it more favorable? Because these people are, I mean, that's straightaway across the Korean War Veteran Memorial Bridge where they are having to immediately just slam the brakes on. And I had no idea, and I just know so precious little about IndyCar, I had no idea that these things didn't have power steering. So you are full on just muscling it through, not even trying to turn these machines, but having to keep them in place when you're trying to turn takes such a degree of core control.
Yeah, and handling the G-force that's coming at you, going almost 200 miles per hour. Those guys are athletes, man. Yeah, and you're in those fire suits. It was so hot yesterday, and where we were at turn 9 where the sun is beating down, I mean, I love it. It was awesome. It was a beautiful day for racing. No rain delays, nothing like that the way there was on Saturday, but I can't even imagine what it must be like in those fire suits, in those cars, especially when there's a red flag and you got to go back to pit lane and just sit there for a while. You see them pumping air into the cars. Yeah, man.
With that few laps to go, the way that they did. How many did you say, 5 or 6?
5 or 6 with the red flag
at
for
that
the
stage.
Restart.
Yeah, and it looked like there might have been another one, but the guy who, I can't remember which car, wrecked immediately after they had the resumption, after the red flag. But it looked like he was out of the way of the race enough that they could continue racing on while they tried to get him back out onto the course. It's such a great event, and Nashville does these things so well. I hope they don't squeeze people, because I think the thing that makes it so cool is the footprint of that thing is so humongous that you can cram. I mean, you're not cramming people anywhere. It is a well-attended event. Yesterday the weather was awesome. Yes, certainly hot in the sun, but the fact that many people can attend at all different varying stages of ticket prices just to wander around the GA, I hope they don't squeeze a lot of that out, because they're going to box that thing in on Broadway. You're going to have to be a corporate sponsor or something like that to get into a Broadway bar. It's going to look like the draft.
Yes, no, similar. I mean, it's going to be tough to get onto a Broadway rooftop for race weekend in 2024.
You'll have to have Coach Mack type of connections.
But I like how they're willing to try different things. Tyler on the F&M Bank chat says the guy who was over all of it was on Blaine and Mickey Friday, said they wanted the super trucks to race over barges on the river, but it wasn't going to work. Yeah, so Jason Rittenberry, the COO of the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, did say that was an idea that they tried to make happen, to literally have barges on the Cumberland River and have the super trucks doing jumps from barge to barge, but it would have been too tough to have the barges having to fight the current of the Cumberland to stay in one place. I can't even imagine the amount of fuel the amount of money you would have to spend on fuel to make that happen. But yeah, I like that they're willing to try new things and that they're going to continue doing this despite the fact that a new stadium is going to be built right there, but they want to keep this in Nashville. And I love the way the IndyCar community has kind of responded to it. Yeah, the drivers, it may be a little bit tougher on them. Certainly the street races are always tougher, but yeah, what a spectacle, man. Delivers every year.
Do you have a favorite? Because I know you're more into motorsports, I would say, than I am. I don't know that you're necessarily following the IndyCar circuit throughout the course of the year.
Yeah, not necessarily.
It's just a great event to attend live. I feel the same way about motorsports to an extent as I do about soccer. I'm not going to watch a ton of soccer on television. I am sure as hell down to go party at Geodis Park with 30,000 of my closest friends and drink a couple of the room temperature tequila, whatever it is that they're serving in there, and have a great time. I felt the exact same way about the Grand Prix. If you haven't been yet, you have to find a way to get there. And again, that's why I hope they keep it affordable and as accessible as humanly possible, because it's just so cool to not try and get as many people under the tent as humanly possible.
Yeah, that is the sport with the most disparity between the experience watching on TV and the experience of actually being there. It is night and day, but awesome time. UFC was in Nashville last week.
I know.
I didn't even know that was happening until like Friday, but big weekend in Music City.
Yeah, I would have pandered shamelessly for tickets had I known that we had Mike Chandler on the radio show out here, for God's sakes, and we had no idea. That speaks to our level of UFC intelligence that Mike Chandler was out here. We thought he was just hanging out, enjoying Titans practice. We're in the middle of the interview. Nate Bain is furiously texting me. He's here to promote the UFC Plus or the ESPN show on UFC, or the ESPN Plus show, the Ultimate Fighter with Conor McGregor. I didn't see it till after the interview. He has to bring it up. Terrible job out of us. Just terrible. Again, fitting to the standard,
yes,
the professional standard that we have brought to our interview series out here at Titans training camp. But again, we are out here at Titans camp. Practice is ongoing. We will have Malik Willis over at the tent here in a little bit. The world of college football is a bit of a bleep show. I don't know if it's more of a bleep show than it felt like last summer when all this conference realignment stuff felt like it was peaking. Turns out it was kind of just the start. So we'll get you up to date on the latest goings-on in the world of college football, what it means for conference realignment, what the weirdest now, what a Big Ten matchups are going to be, Big 12 matchups are going to be in this new look conference realignment situation, and certainly continue to talk about the landscape, what it means for fans who have been passionate about the sport, and everything that you think you know about it continues to change on a year-in, year-out basis. Live from Titans training camp, it's 104.5 The Zone. TheGamblingClinic.com, a great program founded at the University of Memphis in 1999 by Dr. James Whalen and his staff. If you or somebody you love has experienced issues with gambling, they're the spot for you. They have a great week-by-week individualized process that will not discourage you from gambling, but will help you gain capacity to do so in a healthier manner. The vast majority of people gamble for fun without any problems whatsoever, but about 5% of people report having issues at home, overextending themselves financially as a result of their gambling habits. The Gambling Clinic is here to help you or somebody you know if you can identify with any of those issues that I've described. TheGamblingClinic.com is where you go to find out more information about this great program and the help that it can provide to you. This project is funded by the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. Welcome back live from St. Thomas Sports Park here on 104.5 The Zone. Happy Monday to you. Hope you had a fantastic weekend. Why am I hearing the lyrical stylings of Flo Rida in my ear?
Because this weekend, I gained so much respect for Flo Rida as an artist and performer. When we were leaving the Grand Prix festivities after qualifying in the Stadium Super Truck Saturday, on the way you pass the stage on the way out, the exit that we were taking from the race area, and Flo Rida was playing. And so we walked up while this song was playing, and he had maybe 20 to 30 fans up on the stage, fans of all ages from 10 years old to 50 years old, whatever it might have been. And he was up there dancing with people, and he was having a great time. And it was very weirdly wholesome for, a guy whose catalog is majority about
apple-bottom jeans,
right,
boots with the fur,
things that happen in a strip club, and things like that. But it was
is that song about a strip club?
Oh, I guess it's just dancing in a club. But
okay,
I cannot emphasize, it was so fun. We were laughing hysterically the entire time. Flo Rida, do you remember the lawsuit he had with Celsius?
No.
Yeah, he had this lawsuit that he signed up to be a promoter for Celsius, something of that nature. They didn't pay him. He ended up suing them. He won the lawsuit. When he was doing a press conference after the fact, he cracked open a Celsius to announce when he had won the lawsuit. When he was up on the stage, there was a giant line of Celsius cans on the DJ stand.
Did they pay out the lawsuit in cans of Celsius?
I like to think that Flo Rida got into a deal with Celsius to promote their product. They didn't pay him, so he sued them. He got their money, and he's still going to promote them. He's saying, I just had to get my money somehow. That's what I like to think happened. I don't know the full story. But all that to say, Flo Rida, a true entertainer. It was hilarious and very enjoyable to watch on Saturday.
615-737-1045 is how you join the conversation at any point. We'd be happy to have you if you have any opinions on Flo Rida or otherwise. I heard Bert tried to get up on the stage unsuccessfly. Apparently, Flo Rida was welcoming anybody and everybody except Robert Walsh.
It was, let me get my moms on the stage. All the moms would come up there. All right, my fellas, let me get all my fellas on the stage. So Robert was, talking about, all right, let me get all my service animals. Let me get my service animals up on the stage with me. And you just forget, man. I mean, banger after banger.
He's got a catalog.
His catalog is incredible. And he had a whole band, the drums, the bass, the guitar, the whole thing.
My entire 7th and 8th grade awkward
100%.
Grade school mixer soundtrack was 100%. That of Flo Rida.
Yes.
I feel at this
I
point.
wonder what Kirby's favorite Flo Rida song is.
I'm certain he's listening to this shaking a fist at the golf tournament if he can keep them on the air long enough. We'll see. We do have a Pepsi out here. Kirby abandoned us for the day.
Yes.
You heard. You abandoned me on Friday. You were nowhere to be. No, that's not true. Yeah, you were actually providing a great service at this point. So this was a situation where Kirby abandoned me in my greatest hour of need because of the Grand Prix, and we were doing other shows out there, obviously, and I can't be self-involved in the hog Kirby to myself all the time. He left me right before Coach Mack and Will Levis in the interview, and apparently the interview situation for the FM radio audience, our biggest portion of the audience, was difficult to hear.
Good.
V-Love had constructive criticism for me at the Music City Grand Prix. So I don't care what Kirby thinks today because he abandoned me on my most important interview of training camp thus far.
I wonder how many things Kirby would take issue with in the way that I set this up. There's probably a long list of things that Kirby would be furious about.
Are we even on the air right now? Is that
are we talking to any of you?
Can you hear me? Can you see me?
We have a Pepsi bottle here and a pack of cigarettes in memoriam for Kirby, who is no longer with us. He's very much alive. He's just in Franklin at Old Natchez Country Club.
Now, that pack of cigarettes is not to commemorate Kirby.
Well, I'm not going to smoke those. Robert just left those at my house, so I brought them to put next to the Pepsi bottle in memoriam.
So basically, Pepsi and Marlboro are getting ad placement on our stream in ways that they should not, other than to contribute to Kirby. So out of
respect.
As an act of disrespect, I am going to drink Kirby's in memoriam.
That is extremely disrespectful.
Would this be like me spilling his ashes?
Yes.
I feel like
I think that's exactly what that would be.
Instead of spreading Kirby's ashes anywhere, literally he's going to get rolled up and smoked in something.
You are soiling his memory here at training camp.
I'm going to dump a Pepsi, a warm room temperature Pepsi into the Cumberland.
All right, you can drink the Pepsi, but the rule is if you drink the Pepsi, you got to smoke all the cigarettes. And I don't know how many cigarettes. Again, Robert Walsh left this at my house. I do not smoke. There are 3 cigarettes in here. You have to, I think, walk away to do it during a break.
Okay, we'll see what I sound like after smoking 3 cigarettes in a commercial break. Either way,
them's the rules.
If you're a college football fan, you probably college football fan, not pan. That's Panzika. College football fan, you probably chain smoking cigarettes this weekend because of the situation that has occurred with conference realignment. Now, we kind of had a little bit of pearl clutching, I would say, after Texas and Oklahoma went first. And it felt like something where we looked around and said, oh, my God, is Notre Dame going to join a conference? Who's going to be next? Who's going to grab who? Is the ACC about to be completely broken up? And then, of course, there are rules in place. These things can't happen immediately. So at the time, we did feel like there might be more seismic shifts in a shorter time period. But over the course of the last, I would say now 3 years, heading into 3 years of this being kind of our existence, our perpetual existence, in the world of college football, you've seen, after Texas and Oklahoma, USC and UCLA, now you have the situation where Oregon and Washington have officially finalized a deal to join the Big Ten beginning in the 2024-2025 season. That happened on Friday. That took the Pac-12 down to the Pac-9 at that point after Colorado had initially started the salvo of Pac-12 teams jumping ship to go to the Big 12, the most entertainment-filled property right now, Colorado, with the biggest talking point of the college football season, Deion Sanders.
That doesn't make them the best long-term asset.
Does not, but
yes.
It draws attention and it matters to television networks. So you have then, following suit after Colorado, Oregon and Washington were the next two to go. Now you have Utah and Arizona State applying for Big 12 memberships in ways that the Big 12, Brent Yormark, seems to say, come on in. I've poached the first couple. I've fired the first couple of shots. Now we'll take all of you and completely wreck what everybody knows to be college football alignment as we realign in very, very real time. It feels like the gentrification of college football.
It does. The Pac-12 became the Pac-9, the Pac-7, and now I believe
the Pac-None.
The Pac-4. But yes, in so many words, the Pac-None. The Pac-12 is still an entity as we speak. The proposed deal with Apple TV that we talked about last week was reported by CBS, would have paid $23 million per school with subscription-based upside. So Barrett Sallee, CBS, doing a lot of reporting on that. Oregon and Washington, both for the Big Ten, to where they can make, reportedly, 50% of the revenue share that other schools around the Big Ten are making. That is how bad, that is how dire of straits the Pac-12 was in, that Oregon and Washington were ready to bail to make half what the rest of the what Maryland and Rutgers and Iowa are making in the Big Ten as far as revenue share comes with TV deals.
Now, before we go too far down that train of thought, did you see what Jeff Schwartz, former NFL offensive lineman, famously played at Oregon? He does work, I think, for the Pac-12 Network and SiriusXM, their Pac-12 properties. He does games. He said he kind of debunked the notion that this was a desperation situation just to flee the Pac-12, at least on the part of Oregon, because he said, listen, the revenue share is not necessarily the thing that Oregon is banking on the most. The Nike money is obviously a massive part of their funding. You have obvious revenue streams that come in as a part of boosters beyond just Phil Knight. You have a situation at Oregon where they are, maybe it's unique to Oregon, but their deal is not as raw of a deal as it might look like, not as desperate of a deal as it might have looked like from the exterior. Now, I'm sure Jeff is talking to people. I'm sure he's not just saying this without having spoken to people at the university. But I did think that was interesting perspective to kind of put it into context. Hey, yeah, it's bad. It's not good. The Pac-12, as we know, I'm sure Kayla Anderson's pissed. I haven't talked to her a ton this morning. She's out here at practice too. But, it is consequential that these things are happening. But in terms of the financials, it may not be as bleak for some of these universities as it might appear on the external.
Oh, sure. And look, 50% of what every Big Ten school is making is
still pretty good.
Hell of a whole lot of money. Yeah. So, yes,
still pretty good.
Oregon and Washington will be fine. The Big 12 has strengthened throughout all of this. I guess there had to be one casualty, right, throughout this world of realignment that we're in now with super conferences forming. And the Big 12 said, it's not going to be us.
Yeah. No, Brent Young, and that's what he was hired to do. He's an entertainment. Yeah, and so as somebody who, I don't want to paint you as the voice of the college football fan around here, but you and Jackson are a better representative than I am of that. So from your standpoint, are you comfortable with the idea, and maybe because we work in this business, you're a bit numb to it, comfortable with the idea that television networks and now entertainment executives are dictating the future of college football? Brent Yormark is an entertainment executive. He was hired from Rock Nation. Like, this is not a former athletic director. This is an entertainment exec who understands the network, understands the networks, understands their position, understands how to deal with them in ways that, I'm sure there will be other people in the mold of Greg Sankey that have these jobs in the future, but I bet not as many as traditionally.
Yeah. I guess what bothers me most as a college football fan is that this now has dominated our summer off-season discussions.
Yeah, it's not about football.
In the world of college football. We hardly talk about football nowadays when discussing college football in the summer months, in June, July, August, before the season kicks off. When things get rolling, we're watching games, man, and it's going to be weird seeing Rutgers play Oregon and Washington in a Big Ten regular season game. We're going to get over that. Obviously, we're going to watch the games. I hope they can preserve the Apple Cup between Washington and Washington State. I hope they can preserve the Civil War between Oregon and Oregon State. They say that they will. We'll see. But that's the main thing, is we kind of get to the season and we're like, okay, all right, we've barely talked about, who's expected to do what where and all these things with these conferences, because the Pac-12 is going to be fun this year.
Yeah.
The Pac-12
right.
is going to be a fun conference to watch in 2023, and it's going to be kind of bittersweet because we're going to watch Bo Nix and Caleb Williams, and Michael Penix Jr. for Washington on a weekly basis.
In a lame duck season for the conference.
Yeah.
And that's going to come up on every broadcast of all of those games. Yeah. It's going to be discussed just as much as, the storyline of Bo Nix and all the different places that he's been in college football, or, the kind of story that Kyle Whittingham is in this conference and kind of keeping Utah competitive. Who's my cousin? Cam Rising.
As
the quarterback
Utah coming
there.
back
and
for another repeat.
Whether he's the starting quarterback, it sounds like that, for my Utah Utes, famously, of course. There is a lot of compelling football storylines around that conference, and now it's all going to be, I don't want to say overwhelmed, because football fans still care about the football that's going on.
When the football starts, we're going to talk about the football.
Sure,
yeah.
But it's going to be a part of every discussion. It's not going to go away when the football starts, and I think that's going to be the annoyance, right? You're just going to get hit over the head with it. It's going to be a constant reminder. Maybe you don't mind those things, but I just think there is a tendency to overcover these things. These are impactful. These are not inconsequential. It's going to change the way that you consume these things. So, to an extent, it does matter to the consumer. But I think after the initial news of, hey, the Pac-12 or Washington's going where and Utah's going where, I think most people are just like, just give me the football and get out of here with all this white noise around conference realignment. I don't care who Brent Yormark is. The more that we talk about this, the more that because I get engaged in the sports business part of the discussion, and I really, I have to check myself and be like, do people actually care?
Well, I think people care why it's happening, because
sure,
the vast majority of the college football fan does not enjoy what's happening. You can understand why it's happening and still not really appreciate it, because none of this is being done for the athletes, for the coaches, for the consumer, right? The people that this affects the most are the people that are least considered. That's probably what bothers you the most. Yes, you're losing traditional rivalries and the geographic nature of college football that, in my mind, is one of the many things that makes it so special. But of all the changes, the people that disproportionately get affected the most, especially the athletes, man, and beyond football, Rutgers softball is going to have to fly to Eugene, Oregon for a Tuesday night softball game in the Big Ten regular season.
Why are you caping up for softball?
You know what I mean?
Is that because they're going to have to change planes because they're not flying charter?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Oh my! You're going to have to connect in Utah, right, to go from New Jersey to Eugene, Oregon. I mean, it's crazy. It's just crazy.
No, it's not being done with the student athlete in mind. It's being done for the benefit of television networks. And listen, all sports are at this point. Live sports rights are the most valuable outside of things like an election cycle. To television networks, those are the most valuable things that you can acquire. It's why the streamers are trying to get involved with this and why all this is being broken up in a way that's more digestible for the people who pay the money for these things.
What will be the matchup to you that is most when push comes to shove.
Well, you've robbed mine. It's Rutgers and Oregon.
Or yeah, like the one that you're like Big Ten football on CBS.
It's Piscataway and Eugene. Yes, it's that. What fresh hell is this?
Or like because at this point there's going to be so many Big Ten matchups that are a Big Ten school against a former Pac-12 school. But the Big 12 is a sleeper in this because you're going to have UCF and Arizona in a Big 12 clash. You know that if you told somebody that 5 years ago.
I'm watching an Indiana UCLA basketball game this year, and it's a Big Ten matchup. I don't know. I'm still trying to process that. I kind of love it, but I'm not a college football traditionalist in this way that many people whose objections would stem from that are probably deeply offended by all of the things that are happening to their favorite sport.
Yeah, I mean, college football is not dying, obviously. If anything, it's strengthening because these TV deals are getting more and more astronomical with every passing cycle. But for the fan, it's losing that bit of luster. But once again, when things kick off, we're all right back.
See, but I think you just encapsulated the entirety of why this is happening. For the fan, you are correct. This is not being done to benefit the college football day one P1.
Nobody likes it.
They already no.
Nobody.
The people who care about this thing already don't like it.
Exactly. Those are the people I'm talking
It's
about.
not being done for them.
Yeah.
It's being done to get more people. So in a sense, college football is never going to be bigger. They're going to make it appealing to more people. They already have you. They already have Pate. They already have our buddy Chris Childers, who, I mean, I'm concerned about self-harm on the internet with the way that Chris Childers is bemoaning the state of college football, understandably so. Chris feels, and I'm sure he speaks for maybe not a ton of people, maybe not the majority, but Chris feels like his fandom is being cheapened a little bit, like he doesn't feel like he loves this thing as much as he might have. And maybe he'll grow out of that, and maybe it'll pass with time, like a bad breakup or something like that. But it's not being done for the people that already care about college football. It's being done for the people who are more casual about college football and being brought in and saying, hey, you can watch in Los Angeles and the New York television market and all the different ways that they're splitting up the conferences to make it more appealing to a more broad audience. They're trying to NFL college football, and that sucks for college football fans, but it's great for people who like football on a more general level.
Agent S. on the F&M Big Chat says USC versus Michigan will be the weirdest Big Ten matchup for him.
But like stuff like USC and Ohio State, that's spicy. Like that's going to be fun. People will love that. People who are not diehard Big Ten fans are probably going to eat that up. Oh, boy. This wind is making me look at us both jump. For people watching on the F&M Bank chat, there is it's fairly windy out here. I'm curious to see how the quarterbacks chart out here at St. Thomas Sports Park. We've been talking a little bit of college football, but obviously we're out here at Titans practice. Malik Willis is going to come over to the tent after practice, and we'll chop it up with the Titans' currently second-string quarterback at this point, see how he's self-evaluated to himself at this point. But given the amount of wind that's out here, I'd be curious to know how the quarterbacks are charting. Have to look through Jimmy Wyatt's Twitter account after this.
And the kickers as well.
The kickers, yeah. It's game week, so we'll have kicking competitions in live game reps. Fired up about that. But basically, my larger point about the wind is Lucas had to Kirby it today, and the tent is set up purely – all of this is set up. We are hanging literally by Lucas Panzica's thread here, which is typically the case for this show, but it's never felt more real than every time this wind blows and threatens to knock over our tent.
Oh man,
can you imagine?
Having the Kirby safety net is a terrifying
Well, it's
thing.
just that there's small children in front of us, and I feel like the tent would not be beneficial to the small children. We may see, it's like Mike Vrabel talking about how many 5-year-olds would it take to stop Derrick Henry. It's just a matter of loss of life at that point. I fear the tent may result in damage to the 5-year-olds, and we must protect our children. They are the future. So I hear.
Yes. Their future consists of Oregon State and Maryland playing Big Ten matchups. Or Oregon and Maryland.
You're already your grandpa
State.
Yelling about college football isn't how it was back in my day.
Oregon State is one of the ones left in the dust
I
at
love
the
it.
moment.
615-737-1045. Since Malik Willis is going to be on the radio show a little later, why don't we set some expectations for the second-year quarterback? We'll do that live from Titans training camp coming up next. Welcome back live from Titans training camp here on 104.5 The Zone. Thanks for hanging out here with us. Some fans in attendance today. I'm sure there'll be autographs after the fact. Malik Willis going to come hang out with us after they wrap up on the practice field. Should be about 11:30. Looking forward to catching up with the Titans quarterback in his second year. See how he's managing things to this point. Looked like he had a couple of good snaps out there, running some using him as a ball carrier and kind of utilizing him in the backfield as a part of different options. I'm sure if Malik Willis makes the roster, they're going to have stuff in the playbook for him again. They tried it last year, it just wasn't very good, felt like.
Yeah, I mean, that figures to be a good reason to keep him with three quarterbacks, right?
Yeah, no, you would have to find a way to implement him in some way, shape, or form if he's going to be available. So let's talk about expectations for Malik Willis in year two. It's kind of a complicated situation to work through in the sense that Malik Willis, expectations for him in year two require some degree of, is our expectation that he makes the roster or not? You know, I think if things ended today, I mean, there's going to be the first preseason game on Sunday or Saturday, so it's not like anything is ending today. It looks like we do have a kicking competition going on in front of us right now, though I'm not going to call them made or missed from over here. Our vantage point would be terrible. I would be missing them left and right. But for Malik Willis, do we have an expectation that he's going to make the roster at this point? We are heading into week 3 of training camp. Wednesday we'll have started the third week of this going on. This is a game week. This will be the opportunity for Levis or Malik to start. I'm just guessing. I don't know what their plan is right now. They probably don't know what their plan is just yet. But
for Saturday? For
Saturday, I bet Malik starts. If you ask me today, we'll see how the week goes, and I'm sure Mike Vrabel will be asked. We'll carry his press conference after practice wraps up. Hell, we'll ask Malik at 11:30 when he comes over here. Do you guys know what the plan is for Saturday yet? But for him, it's as simple as, does this dude make the roster? And I mean, at this point, I kind of expect him to. And I don't know if that's misplaced. Even if Levis felt like he was coming on a little bit last week, and I know they had the rainy day practice. He didn't feel like, you listened to the interview. He didn't feel like he was quite up to his standards in the weather. Said it was the first time that he'd thrown an NFL regulation-sized ball in rain before, so he was kind of adjusting to that part of the process.
But when you're asking the question, does Malik Willis make this roster, you're asking, does this team keep three quarterbacks on roster cut?
Is the expectation that this team keeps three quarterbacks right now?
Because that's the only scenario, right, where Malik makes the roster.
It's the only scenario.
It's not Willis and Tannehill with Levis on the practice squad.
He is not making the active roster out of training camp over Will Levis. It's just not something that I think sure, there is a scenario in which that could happen, but I just don't think it's a realistic scenario by any stretch of the imagination. Now, if you're playing percentages, it's far less likely that they do keep three quarterbacks, even if they are the second most three-quarterback team or three-deep quarterback roster in football outside of San Francisco, right? Probably San Francisco 1, Tennessee 2, I would say, at this point.
Yeah.
Washington 2 deep, maybe. That's really only two players, and it doesn't sound like they're really planning on doing anything with Jacoby Brissett at all. Sounds like they're going to try and start Sam Howell. So, I mean, San Francisco and then Tennessee from that standpoint, I really don't see a scenario to date where he's not still the backup quarterback to Ryan Tannehill. Like, if the season started today, would he still give them a better opportunity to win a football game in that moment than would Will Levis? I would probably still say the answer to that is yes. Although Levis did seem like he felt pretty comfortable. He felt like, yeah, we've pretty much got everything installed now. That's what he said to us on. Friday.
Yeah, so, but you're saying that right now. If you had to decide that right now, who's in a better position to help the Titans win as the backup quarterback, Levis or Willis?
Willis.
But what about this trajectory that they've both been on, and what you've seen from Levis? What we've seen from Levis through the first 2 weeks of camp. Like, what if that trajectory continues? How would we be having this conversation 2 weeks from now?
Yeah, I mean, that would be with, 2 preseason games. That would be ahead of the final preseason game. So one would assume that should the trajectory continue, that Will Levis would then at point be the backup quarterback, and it would make Malik more expendable.
Because there are still instincts Levis will have from operating a pro-style offense that Willis still may not have developed.
It's a conversation about expendability. And the discussion today on, what is the date? August the 7th, Malik Willis is not expendable to date. Should that conversation change after Saturday? Should that conversation change in the next 2 weeks? Of course, we will continue to discuss that. But, my expectation right now, if you're asking me today, before we have him on the radio show, so it's a timely discussion, is that he makes the roster right now. And we'll see what happens with Will Levis. And if he can continue to stack those days in a way that's meaningful for him and for his coaching staff to feel more comfortable, more trusting about the situation that they're going to drop a rookie into. Because there will be a moment where he has to go in there. And it's probably, like Chig described with us, he's going to walk in there. He'll probably have the exact same moment to a certain extent where he's looking around and being like, oh, my God, do I know any plays at all? Do I know the protection?
You're saying Levis?
Yeah. Any of them. Any of the rookies, right? Skoronski. I'm sure, Peter looks pretty competent right now, and he's gotten literally all the reps. Maybe not literally. He's gotten the vast majority of the reps as the starting left guard. So I'm sure all of the rookies will have their welcome to the NFL moment, however you would describe it. But there's going to be a moment in time where Levis or Willis has to go in, and they have to be prepared for that opportunity. You're asking me who is more prepared for the opportunity right now. That currently is still Malik Willis. 615-737-1045 is the number. This it was brought up on primetime. Do you feel one has garnered more favorable coverage than the other?
Between the two quarterbacks?
Between the two quarterbacks.
I don't think so. I think Levis has gotten probably more of the attention.
Yeah.
I think. Because he is the new figure in that room,
which
the second-round pick.
Lend itself to more favorable coverage, just more attention.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Because the coverage around Levis has been positive, right? And Willis, you got to give Willis credit, man. He is miles ahead of where he was a year ago at this point. He was that way at OTAs. He is so much better than he was 365 days ago. So, yeah, maybe we have not given that enough coverage, because I do think there's something to be said for the way Malik, just the fact that we're still saying he's ahead of Will Levis, because if the same Malik Willis that was at training camp a year ago was out here in this edition of training camp, that would not be the case, right?
Yeah.
Will Levis, what we see from Levis now, would be beating out what we saw from Malik last year.
615-737-1045 is the number. What are your expectations for Malik Willis in year two? Do you expect him to make the roster? What questions do you have now that it is game week about the various competitions across the roster? We'll talk about them all week long. They have a game on Saturday. I'm flying to Chicago Friday night. Titans Radio will have coverage for the Lee Company Countdown to Kickoff. It'll be Blaine Bishop, Mickey Ryan, Kayla Anderson, and myself 2 hours before kick. And, of course, Jimmy Wyatt will be in the booth. Jimmy and I will be in the booth with Mike Keith and Coach Mack, whose birthday it is today.
Yes.
About 15 minutes before kickoff, and we will resume our normal football season obligations. Can we do we have Stephen A. Smith available? Can I wish Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio a very happy birthday?
Happy birthday to him. I don't care. Good luck.
I care very much.
We do care.
You see him over there today? He's over there holding court on a golf cart.
Doing Coach Mack things.
Always doing Coach Mack things. When we come back, we will get you updated on the latest with Titans practice. They're continuing to be out here on the practice field today. We'll take your phone calls. Don't forget Malik Willis is going to join us over here after practice, and you'll hear from Mike Vrabel at the podium. I believe the other players today are Chiga Conquo, and I need to look at my text messages from who the second player is. But Chig, who we had on the radio show, I'm sure will have many things to say as well. Live from Titans training camp. It's 104.5 The Zone. Yep.
It is 11 o'clock. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica, live from Titans training camp as it is officially game week. The Titans' first preseason game of 2023 is this Saturday in Chicago. The team back on the practice field this morning at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. Titans made one transaction over the weekend, signing offensive lineman Justin Murray, who played for the Bills last season, has 20 career NFL starts at right tackle and right guard. Around the NFL, free agent edge rusher Justin Houston has joined the Carolina Panthers on a one-year deal. The 34-year-old had 9.5 sacks last year with the Ravens. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix ended with Andretti Autosport driver Kyle Kirkwood winning for his second career IndyCar victory. Nashville native Joseph Newgarden finished in fourth. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
What's happening? Welcome into 104.5 The Zone, live from Titans training camp. We're happy to have you here for the next 2 hours. One down, two to go. Before we turn things over to Blaine and Mickey at 1 o'clock. Your phone calls are welcome, 615-737-1045. That's the number. Malik Willis is going to come sit down with us after practice wraps up today. Right now, looks like a little special teams going on at this point in time. You can always interact with the show on the phone lines, like I mentioned, or in the F&M Bank chat, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. You can hang out basically here on the practice field with us, Lucas and myself, until 1 o'clock, like I mentioned. So if you listen to the update, you know that the Titans did make a signing over the weekend, continuing to add some offensive line depth. And at this point, still trying to figure out who is going to be in position to secure that right tackle spot. So they have Jimmy Murray, who was signed to the team, and now they have signed Justin Murray, 6'5", 315, 37 games of experience. He's got 20 starts in the NFL. As a starter in the NFL, he's got total of 12 starts at right tackle, 8 at right guard. So clearly somebody who, at least if not competing for a starting job, can be a part of the competition there at this point that Jamarco Jones so kindly vacated for somebody else to take advantage of. Did you hear any of Blaine and I on Friday going back and forth on this a little bit?
I did not catch that.
So Blaine took the position, and I don't want to mischaracterize what Blaine said, but Blaine took the position of they need the nastiness, right?
Oh, with Jamarco.
Like that, he would have given him another opportunity. He felt that I was, siding with Vrabel, just in terms of, because the head coach made a decision that was the right decision. And that's fine. That's Blaine's opinion to have. That's all well and good. And I thought we had a good back and forth about, this is why I disagree. The guy can't continue to slap people after the play and stuff like that and not be, basically Vrabel's explanation was I have to keep people safe. And what Jamarco Jones was doing, especially in the bubble with that illegal crackback block on a dude who's just out here trying to make the roster, was deemed unsafe. So, the team makes the decision to release him. He was probably going to be the starting right tackle had he, not been a dope. But
he came into camp as it was still going to be a battle, but he came in as the favorite.
He came as the favorite after 2 years of them trying to get him opportunities to get on the field, if for no other reason to find out if he can play, right? Like this is somebody who has not played enough football to determine whether he can be a starting right tackle in the NFL, if he's just kind of a journeyman, if he's a guy like George Fant who's going to bounce around a little bit, has played some, has started some in the league, but, don't slap people after the play. If your teammates can't trust you, if you're going to be an idiot, was my position, then yes, you're going to get cut if you're Jamarco Jones. You're not. His argument was, Blaine's argument was, Taylor Lewan, there needed to be some criticism around people like Lewan when they do that, and I think there was a fair amount of criticism around Taylor every time that he would do something like that in game, not even just from the media, but from his own teammates. There's an A.J. Brown jersey in front of me. I remember A.J. as a rookie very passionately getting in Taylor's face in the Kansas City game because he kept false starting on the play. So that accountability exists, and, I'm going to let them deem who needs to be held accountable more if they're going to be judge, jury, and executioner. I'm going to work off what they've got going. I don't know what he's like as a teammate. I only see his behavior out here on the practice field, and what I know of his behavior on the practice field is that it cost him valuable practice reps on top of, in their estimation, endangering a teammate. So now he finds himself on the way out.
It was starting to epitomize the doing dumb bleep to hurt the team, right?
Yeah, don't be dumb. That's the lesson.
I mean, if you talk about wanting to practice how you play, well, that's how Jamarco was practicing.
That's a 15-yard penalty. If you want to play, if you want to practice like you're going to get a 15-yard penalty after every play, then by all means, sign yourself up.
And he's not the only one that's had a penalty called on him in team drills this year.
Oh, certainly not.
Aziz Al-Shaair had the 2-for-1 with the taunting call / what was the what did that go hand in hand with the other day?
Did he not make a play on a ball in the direction of Tajay Spears?
Yeah.
Was that the matchup?
No, I don't think, because it was the following play that he knocked the ball out when he hit Tajay Spears in the backfield.
Okay.
The play before, there was a 2-for-1 there where they called the penalty on Al-Shaair, and the taunting was on top of it. But Jamarco, so far, the only repeat offender.
Yes, indeed. And so now they need to find a new right tackle situation. Less than ideal. Now, of the options that are available to them, and would you play the starting offensive line, whatever the hell that looks like, in the preseason game, in the first preseason game?
I'd love to hear, next time we talk to Ramon, I'd love to hear about this, because I've always been interested in Ramon's kind of stance on preseason games, but especially in this case of an offensive line that is going to be essentially completely new, everybody in a different spot, right, with Nicholas Petitfrere out for the first 6 games. Aaron Brewer's your only returning starter, and he's not playing in the same spot he was last year.
Right.
So I'd love to hear from somebody that knows offensive line play better than you or I do, talk about how much it actually takes and how much preseason can actually be valuable to gel towards a season opener.
I'm sure Mike Vrabel will be asked about that at the podium today. I'm sure he will not be forthcoming about their intentions to play anybody, whether it's starters or backups, unless it's Derek, and I think typically his response around Derek has been, have we played him in the preseason before? And the answer is no. So Tannehill did not play in the preseason last year. They started Malik all 3 games, as people remember that ongoing conversation.
Has Tannehill ever played in the Titans preseason?
Yes, when he was first here in 2019 when Mariota was the starter. Tannehill did play in the preseason.
Otherwise, there's just been competitions happening at the backup spot to where Matt Barkley is battling with Logan Woodside, Malik Willis battling with Logan Woodside.
And it just feels like such a is this 14? Season 14 for Tannehill?
Either 13 or 14.
Like, at that point, you don't need to play that dude in the preseason. You're only running the risk of injury. He's not going to gain anything. He's not seeing anything defensively that he hasn't seen before. The only value there is obviously new teammates, and you want to build that chemistry, but that's what the practice reps are for. You're going to get far more practice reps, or far more reps in practice. Tannehill and Hopkins, Tannehill and Chig, Tannehill and Burks. Tannehill with this offensive line, they are wearing shoulder pads and helmets today, so it is a padded practice, a little more contact than we saw. No, they were wearing pads on Friday as well. They have now had 4 consecutive, including today, padded practices at this stage as they get themselves ready for their first preseason opportunity at Chicago.
By the way, season 12 for Tannehill.
Season 12 for Tannehill, but my point still stands. It's a decade plus in the league. That quarterback does not benefit at all from playing in the preseason. So we'll see what Mike Vrabel says after practice today. They're scheduled to get off at 11:15. I imagine we'll have Malik Willis over here at about 11:30, and we'll find out if he knows anything about the plan, and if he's willing to tell us. I'm certain that's not quite the case, but I'll look forward to talking to Malik anyway.
Stupid, but yeah, on the F&M Bank chat says D-Hop better not play on Saturday.
I mean, he's practiced every day. He's out there practicing again today. I mean, he's essentially just telling everybody in the city of Houston to sit on it and spin. I mean,
yes.
That's
no, he absolutely. I mean, he is sick of the not a practicing player narrative. As Tannehill just threw a strike to the near sideline intended for Burks. I do not think that was completed. This is a tough angle.
Yeah, you were criticizing my play-by-play abilities. You just tried to flex on them a little bit, just a little more detail with the near sideline, and then you can't see anything at all.
Nope. Can't even tell you what happened.
Well done by you. So in the event that they break practice in the next 5 minutes, we'll go ahead and take a break here. We'll have Malik Willis and Mike Vrabel's press conference on the other side. You'll also hear from a couple of Titans players at the podium. 615-737-1045 is the number. Lucas, you better get a little bit of spray, a little bit of repercussions from the rain earlier here at St. Thomas Sports Park. Looked like there might be a little weather kick-up. We'll keep the show on the rails. We just might have to have a human anchor out here to hold down the tent. We'll see if Kirby can't sprint from whatever golf course they're at today to make this thing happen. Live from St. Thomas Sports Park, it's 104.5 The Zone. Let me tell you about the folks at Two Rivers Ford, not just because I'm a customer at Two Rivers, but because they have been in business for 40 years selling quality American-made Ford vehicles. In particular, the Ford F-150. It's been the best-selling truck for 46 years. And Two Rivers Ford has been the leading F-150 Ford dealer in our community for their entire existence. They've got a huge selection of F-150s on the lot right now, and they're all priced below MSRP. You see, Two Rivers Ford always sells for the best price. Their trucks are clearly marked, no gimmicks, no shenanigans, just an honest deal and a speedy process. And did I mention that Two Rivers Ford has non-commissioned salespeople, so you'll never be pressured. There's a reason Two Rivers Ford has been the best in business since 1983. So if you're in the market for an F-150, call, click, or go see my friends at Two Rivers Ford. Mount Juliet, just 7 miles east of the airport. That's Two Rivers Ford, powered by Ford, driven by people. Welcome back live from St. Thomas Sports Park here on 104.5 The Zone. Thanks for hanging out here with us today. Weather is okay if you're out here just watching practice. If you're a quarterback, you're probably not having a good time throwing in and against the wind. But it looks like they've still got team ongoing right now. Looks to be about 10 to 20 minutes remaining in the practice. And then, of course, we'll have Malik Willis over here and also carry Mike Vrabel's press conferences. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join at any point. We'd be happy to have you. It is worth mentioning, though, since we are outside and there is a bit of wind, the Weather Channel has just sent me a tornado watch. Oh, not a warning, but a watch from Monday, 10:20 a.m., which has already passed, until this evening at 6 p.m. Central Time. For the following counties: Clay, Coffee, Cumberland, Davidson, DeKalb, Fentress, Grundy, Jackson, Macon, Overton. A considerable, basically the entire state, is under a tornado watch at this point. Nashville, Murfreesboro, Mount Juliet, Hendersonville, Gallatin, Goodlettsville, all in that specifically city-wise. So,
Nash Severe Weather 28 minutes ago on Twitter saying they see nothing on radar right now up in or approaching Davidson County despite the tornado watch.
Okay, cannot recommend that enough for people in Davidson County. The Nashville Severe Weather Twitter account is essential for all of your live up to the second, not even up to the minute, weather updates. They got you covered.
I have never felt more like Kirby than I do in this moment.
You are literally, you're even.
It's the Kirby pose.
It's the stance. It's not just that we have.
Give me the Pepsi.
Would you also like a cigarette?
I'm good on the cigarette.
Okay.
It's just here for the Kirby aesthetic.
Are you certain? You are literally even standing like him. He does
the hip out, kind of. He uses his left arm to kind of hang on to something and prop himself up like he's on a subway. And
I think that's
this
why
is the Kirby.
I think that's why he walks the way that it does, the way that he does, because his spine is just kind of twisted from his hips being out of place that way, from leaning for so many years.
I just need a hat. Kirby's always got a hat on, and I'm not a hat guy. Hats make my head look dumb.
Well, yeah, we would have to find the appropriate size at that point. Although Greg Cosell did get hats from the team. He was concerned about his head out here on the practice. Oh, whoa, speaking of concern about
Oh, my God.
I think you pulled that down on yourself.
Give me that.
That's unbelievable.
Give me my rain jacket. At this point, I'm just worried about the Comrex. Give me that. Give me that.
I am so dry, and he is so not, and that is hilarious.
Jackson, blink twice if we're still on the air.
That's outstanding.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you for that.
The fact that, listen.
That actually felt amazing.
If it was on the equipment, it would be one thing. That it's on you is comedically perfect. And oh, my God, did we get that on camera?
Yeah.
The laptop, yes.
Yeah, that felt good, actually. I would take another one of those.
Do you feel refreshed? Is that coming from the tent or
yeah,
is it coming from above?
Pull it up right
there.
It's
literally sitting there. It's just waiting for you.
Yeah.
Excellent. I love that. It's like we pulled like one of these TikTok pranks. Every time this wind blows, but we can literally see the puddle sitting above us.
I feel like a kid at the water park with the bucket. You remember the bucket at a water park? I bet you didn't go to water parks as a kid.
I don't swim. Are you kidding me? I'm not going to a public water park. You out of your mind? You're insane. It's like you're.
Even as a kid, your parents never once took you to a water park?
Yeah, they took me once and I hated it. I said, this water smells funny. Don't take me here again.
Well, as a kid at the water park, the bucket was a highlight where you stand under the giant bucket that fills up and then turns over and just dumps water on you. This was the adult version of that.
Do you feel better or worse that you had an entire viewing audience watching you get literally dumped on? I feel it's going to happen again.
It's going to happen again.
In the very near future.
It's going to happen again.
I can't wait for that to happen. Now, hopefully, we may have to move Malik Willis in that chair away from said
we don't want
zone.
that.
Although he might think it feels pretty good, too.
I think he would actually appreciate that.
I don't know. I don't want to test that theory necessarily.
We'll ask him.
It was one thing for me to publicly embarrass you with Will Levis on the radio show last week. It's another thing to actively dump a bucket of water on
Do you consent to the possibility of getting absolutely drenched in water at any given moment during this interview?
Are we going to have to start
sign
having people
this waiver?
Listen, there's enough people standing around the tent. We're probably going to have fans sign waivers just to stand near the tent at this point. In danger of being splashed.
Oh, my hair is soaking wet. Oh, my God. I'm not moving.
It's literally on the chair.
I'm not moving.
But you have to move at a certain point. You're literally just getting dunked on. If it makes you feel any better, it looks like that's the last puddle. Do you want to just punch it and be done with it? Do you want to test out the theory here?
No.
This is perfect.
I think we got the last
I can
of
do
it.
play-by-play of this.
No,
I
I think we got
can't
the
do it
last
worth
of
a
it.
damn of the football field. I haven't been able to see practice for the better part of an hour at this stage, but I'm happy to give
I'm worried
people.
about the power supply. I don't want to get electrocuted.
There is no power supply.
There is now. We got
well,
power.
if we get electrocuted, then we have a half day. We go home. It's not that deep.
Shout out to Robbie Bourne and the Tennessee Titans for getting our issues fixed here on the technical side.
Oh, do we actually have power?
We have power.
Oh, swell. Love that. 615-737-1045 is the number. We would be happy to join, or we would be happy to have you join us at any point. The only repercussion of this is I had Greg Cosell's notes on everything Tennessee Titans
They're
out on the
soaking
table. They appear to be slightly damp at this stage. But we will make sure that Greg has the necessary tools to be able to give you the practice analysis, and we will hear that at noon. Greg will sit down with us basically the entire noon hour today and tomorrow. You're going to get a live episode of The Install for 3 straight hours on 104.5 The Zone's airwaves this week, between us for 2 days and 3HL after that. I'm dying to have this happen to Malik in real time.
I'm going to have to switch out this chair.
Especially now that it's on video. Like, I'm dying to have this happen to an active NFL. But do you think I'd get swung on? Do you think I would get punched in the face if that
Not
happened
from
to him?
Malik.
No, not Malik. Malik's a very kind soul. That would not happen. But like Vrabel, that would be swell. Like just getting throat punched by Vrabel on live camera. I'd love that for me.
Be great for you.
Yeah, that sounds swell. But practice still ongoing. Looks like, who is the quarterback at this point? Offense huddling up. Looks like Levis is currently out there working with that group. It looks to still be the twos. Do we make anything of that? That's 4 straight practices, bud. Is that worth noting? I want to make sure I'm accurate in that. I'll check my notes with Tehran's after this, but
before you make any conclusions on that, I feel like you need it charted out on how many snaps Will Levis has taken with the twos versus Malik Willis with the twos. Because we keep talking about this. Yes, it's a step for Levis to be working with the twos, but Mike Vrabel has talked about rotating these quarterbacks in those situations. He wants to see his guys playing in as many different situations as possible. So let's figure out just how many snaps Levis versus Willis have gotten in that spot before coming away with conclusions.
That's a fair assessment. Keep your powder dry. 615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion. Players that the quarterbacks are vibing with. So something to keep an eye on, especially at training camp and in the preseason. So Tannehill, and when A.J. Brown was a member of the Tennessee Titans, the reps that A.J. got before, he very quickly made his way into the starting lineup, A.J. Brown did, as a rookie, and was obviously a contributing player right out of the gate. But Tannehill was the backup quarterback when A.J. Brown was drafted here. And so the amount of reps that Tannehill and A.J. Brown got A.J.'s rookie season, to the point where Tannehill was inserted in the lineup, already had that repertoire with A.J. Brown, and that was the connection that you felt of anything. While A.J. was still here, you could trust more than anything else, consistently, game in and game out. Those are the kind of things that I want to pay attention to, not just with Tannehill and who he's out here with, but with Willis and Levis.
Who?
To see Willis.
Okay.
What did you think? What did I say?
I don't know. Willis?
Willis? Willis, not Willis. But Willis, because should these guys have to get into games, and should some of these depth wide receivers continue to get snaps within the offense, you want to know who these dudes are comfortable with more than anything. Lucas is going to, honestly, I will switch my chair if I have to.
No, we got chairs back here.
Okay.
Get Malik a dry chair.
I don't want him to sit in a damp chair. That would be indicative of the level of professionalism around here, I would think. But for Malik, I don't know who that guy is yet. I don't know if he'll necessarily answer that question. He might say, I'm vibing with all my teammates out here. We're just trying to, whoever's open is the dude that I'm connecting with. But for Levis, it looks like it's Reggie Robertson. Reggie Robertson and Levis have had some pretty good snaps consistently. And Robertson feels like a fringe guy to make practice squad or active roster where the wide receiver competition is concerned.
I think he and Trayshawn Harrison are in a nice battle.
Yeah, well, it's just a matter of,
UDFA out of Oregon State.
It is just such it's a complicated kind of situation, because I could make the case that, like, somebody like Racing McMath should be the odd man out, or NWI should be the odd man out. Like, I feel like I can make the case for that being a situation this year, especially if there's 3 quarterbacks actually at play. Where would the extra roster spot come from? They would have to, Kevin Rader being a tight end and fullback helps their roster math, right? But a third quarterback would complicate things, and where is that additional spot coming from? Wide receiver may be it, depending on how the special teams numbers break out. Inside linebackers, worth watching that way. Even the edge guys. I mean, you had a guy the size of Rashad Weaver playing teams. That's not something you're normally accustomed to seeing. That's a big dude moving, as fast as humanly possible down the field. But something that it didn't seem like they envisioned for a very long period of time.
So if we reset the wide receiver battle right now, obviously at the top, DeAndre Hopkins, Traylon Burks, Chris Moore, Kyle Phillips. Are we going to go as far as to say those 4 are the sure things right now as far as making this roster is concerned?
I'm sure that Chris Moore is making the roster as long as he is still out there practicing special teams.
Yeah.
At 30 years old.
Vrabel is speaking glowingly about him.
Loves him.
Hard to imagine a world where Chris Moore does not make this roster.
In fact, he said he wished that he got Chris Moore earlier in his career just because he felt like Greg Cosell was asking me who are Vrabel's guys, and I kind of struggled for a minute this year because Ben
this
Jones.
Team? Ben Jones was one.
But, he's gone, so does that – I mean, Kevin Byard is obviously one, but, Brewer seems like a little bit of that. Chris Moore definitely seems like he's got the head coach's attention.
Yeah.
At this stage.
So those are the 4 that you kind of you put into, you sort of compartmentalize, saying these guys do not appear to be in danger of not making the roster.
Again, Hopkins, Burks, Phillips, Moore. So then the conversation becomes, all right, they'll probably keep 5 in all likelihood. So is that Racy? Is that NWI? I would think NWI has, I know NWI has more inherent value to that football team. He can play special teams. He plays all 3 positions on their offense, where the wide receivers are asked to play. He run blocks. Mike Vrabel has spoken glowingly of his effort and energy that he brings to whatever it is that they ask him to do. It's not that Racy doesn't. I just think that in terms of valuable commodities, you can sell me Racy, big, fast, strong, all these things, but it all amounts to 4 career catches.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean anything to me other than I know that NWI can play. It's just a question of are you comfortable with the level of play that he brings.
And we haven't even mentioned Trayshawn Harrison, Reggie Roberson, Keiris Jackson, Mason Kinsey.
All guys who are trying to, Kinsey or Jackson, I bet, makes the practice squad as Phillips' backup.
Yeah, I wonder about seeing how many reps Jackson gets as a punt returner throughout preseason. He's a shifty guy. He's a really interesting prospect.
He continues to try and rep those things at this point. Figure it out. But for the purposes, there we go. Got me now. For the purposes of the wide receiving core, you understand that they're trying to work through those things and trying to make sure that everybody gets to a spot where they can actively contribute, not just a part of the offense or the defense, but special teams really, really comes into play at this time of year. And you'll see that situation develop over the next couple of weeks as preseason games continue. 615-737-1045 is the number. We are, it looks like practice still ongoing, 11:30. Is when, or it's 11:30 right now, just a little after 11:30, so we'll keep an eye on when things break and when you might hear from the head coach. And do I call him the backup quarterback? I guess just Titans quarterback Malik Willis at this point is what we'll go with. For him, I was watching a lot of footwork drills, and Cosell and I were over there watching specifically individual drills with the quarterbacks. And it's almost like you're seeing 3 different stages of player, and I'm not really sure how to stack them other than putting Tannehill on top in terms of crispness, efficiency, understanding of what he's being asked to do, marrying all those things together. The technique should look perfect in these individual drills for these guys. And I don't know, perfect is probably a stretch, but it's great for Tannehill. You see Levis working through it. Malik has made, as Mike Vrabel said, alluded to at the beginning of camp, glaring improvement, but you still see some of those raw mechanics that they're trying to refine. And I look forward to speaking with Malik today because I know the amount of work that he's got in with this offseason. He and Josh Dobbs spend a lot of time have spent a lot of time in Nashville working with their respective quarterback coaches. And in particular, Sean McAvoy, who I know works really closely with Malik and with Dobbs, as well as several other quarterbacks at varying levels of high school, college, and pro, and how much difference he felt like that offseason made for him. Right? We talked about Traylon Burks hanging here in the offseason, spending the entirety of the offseason here, being in the building on a regular basis, asking questions. Mike Vrabel spoke to that, right? Malik is actively engaging, actively asking questions. He has the attitude that you want him to have at this stage of his career, given how, we'll call it tenuous, how tenuous his roster spot kind of is at this point.
Malik just
Are you sure? Malik just completed a pass to whom?
Right over the middle to Chris Moore, it looked like. Moore's wearing 11, correct?
Moore is 11.
Because he was asked about that he didn't realize that not that it should matter, but that was A.J. Brown's number, and he said he picked it and then realized after the fact.
He said somebody pointed it out to him very quickly on the internet, and, that sounds just about right for the Titans fan base.
Little 30-yard strike over the middle from Malik to Moore.
So, and for Chris, but the value of veteran wide receivers for Malik and for Levis, I'm dying to know how that feedback has been. I asked Weaver, I think you were over here when we had Rashad Weaver on the radio show, and I asked him about, remember Harold Landry and Taylor Lewan working very closely together, and they knew each other prior to Harold being drafted here. I think they both worked out in Arizona or something to that effect. But Harold Landry and Taylor Lewan regularly working against each other. Harold kind of showing how he would go at Taylor showing him how a left tackle in the NFL would combat those things. Taylor was doing that with Landry early on in his career. And I remember asking Weaver last week, have you been doing that with the offensive line? He just basically said, I think he was joking when he said, no, I hate those guys, or I don't like those guys very much. We won't work together like that. But from the standpoint of a young quarterback, a rookie in Levis and a second-year player in Malik, how valuable is somebody like Chris Moore or somebody like DeAndre Hopkins even, who's played with all kinds of quarterbacks, all different levels of quarterbacks, who can help them understand what the wide receiver needs out of that quarterback-wide receiver relationship where it comes to timing, accuracy, ball placement, throwing with anticipation, all those different things that you want a player like that to develop the skill set and to be able to capitalize on. How big an asset has that been for the two young quarterbacks here in Tennessee as they try to continue to work through those things?
And receivers.
Yeah.
We cannot forget how young how inexperienced the majority of this wide receiver room is.
Have we had one on the show yet, a wide receiver? I don't think
Not
so.
yet in camp.
No, I don't think that's been the case just yet.
But as far as the impact that Hopkins could make on the Titans well after he's gone, it's the impact he could make on Traylon Burks, who I keep going to Traylon Burks obviously because of being a first-round pick and the expectations on him.
The most invested in that guy.
Yes, but also the guy whose game could kind of elevate to a similar profile of a DeAndre Hopkins in terms of their play style, right? Of being a combat catcher, 50-50 balls. So many elements of DeAndre Hopkins' game that could translate over to Traylon Burks just by osmosis that could help the Titans for years to come, no matter how long DeAndre Hopkins plays here.
615-737-1045 is the number. You are welcome to join at any point. We've been talking about a lot of talk about Malik Willis today on the radio show because Malik will come over here after practice and we will talk to him about the work that he's put in year two and how things have gone out here on the practice field after their day of work today. I am going to request that we do the show from up there on the balcony. I was spoiled on Friday. I had a great vantage point. I could see everything, and now I can't see bleep. But that's all well and good.
Did just have a shoot-at kick fall short. Wind's blowing out here at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park.
Yeah, it does look like we're going to avoid any rain, so it seems like you'll stay dry for the. Have you dried yet?
I dried almost immediately. Yes.
I mean, it's not a miserably hot day by any stretch of the imagination. It's been pretty decent out here for them on the practice field, given what Nashville can be in August at this time of year. Anyway, we'll take a quick break. We'll have Malik Willis in this hour at the desk over here with us. We'll also have Mike Vrabel at the podium. Other Titans players will speak as well. 615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone. Welcome back live from St. Thomas Sports Park here on 104.5 The Zone. Practice literally as we're coming back from commercial break just ended, so head coach, players will be at the podium. Malik Willis, Titans quarterback, will sit down with us, and we will find out his thoughts on how the day of work went. We saw a little bit, but again, vantage point there on the middle field today, so had a few fans in the house who were out here taking in practice. Visibility not great for us, but we'll ask Malik how he assessed his day of work, and we'll use our social media situation to fact check said results. 615-737-1045 is the number. You can join at any point if you would like to, or interact in the F&M Bank chat, where perhaps you can see Lucas Panzica have a bucket of water dumped on his head. I very much enjoyed that.
I did too, honestly.
I just wish it could have been Bert, because Bert looks like somebody could dump a bucket of water on him at any given point, although he probably would have started to disrobe at his at his clothes in the way that he does on primetime. Not an ideal situation at any point when Bert starts to shed layers. But we're not here to talk about that. Apparently, the University of Tennessee will pivot quickly to some college football before Malik Willis comes over here and sits down. The University of Tennessee ranked number 10 in the preseason coaches poll. Not AP poll, but
right.
The preseason coaches poll. So apparently coaches have as high of expectations for the Vols as Vols fans seem to do. A lot of excitement around the program, obviously heading into this year with Joe Milton as the quarterback, year 3 with Josh Heupel, and the offense being as big a question as anything, it seems like coaches at least are willing to give Josh Heupel the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, and unsurprisingly, Georgia topping the preseason coaches poll with Michigan as the number 2 team.
Sure.
And Alabama number 3. Ohio State rounds out the top 4. LSU at 5, and that is the only other, outside of Georgia and Alabama, LSU the only other SEC team ranked ahead of Tennessee in the preseason. So, yeah, coming in top 10 in between Clemson at 9 and Washington at 11. Texas at 12.
Is there anything in there that would surprise you? I mean, I know preseason top 10s are preseason, they don't really mean anything. You told me how seriously people take the preseason voting at SEC Media
Right.
Days.
No, it's just a fun exercise to see what expectations are for programs from people like us, and in this case, from coaches around college football. It means nothing as far as what's going to happen once things kick off week 1.
So, for the Vols, we're getting closer and closer to kickoff here at Nissan Stadium.
1 month.
Tennessee hosting. Well, they're not technically hosting. It's a neutral site game, I guess, but they will technically be the host.
Be a lot of orange in that stadium
for their opening game against Virginia. You don't bet like that, though. You don't really bet.
No.
On a regular basis. Have you seen anything about the opening line? Like Virginia's circumstance around their football program last year was nightmarish. They had to stop in the middle of the season.
Yeah. Obviously some tragic off-field scenarios with the shooting that happened on campus there and the way that it involved the football program. I have not seen any betting lines. I would imagine Tennessee heavy favorites in that game. Virginia's starting quarterback competition was between a quarterback transfer from Monmouth and a baseball player. And the baseball player has decided he's just going to play baseball. So I guess it's decided for them. Tony Elliott going into his second year, the former Clemson offensive coordinator, who was talked about as a potential candidate for Tennessee when Danny White was going through his head coaching hiring process to hire Josh Heupel. I think Tennessee fans should come in and expect a healthy margin of victory in that game against Virginia. I truly don't see I just don't see a way UVA is able to keep up in that game on offense.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? It's just the score separation. They averaged 49-point-something points per game last year. And I don't necessarily, I'm not coming into 2023 thinking that they're going to do something like that. We obviously understood that Hendon Hooker, another year in the system, another, a level of comfort with his skill position players at that point. You could tell that he and the play caller were in sync, that he had an understanding, a very high-level understanding of what it was he was being asked to do.
Tennessee 27.5-point favorites week 1 against Virginia.
Would you bet Virginia? 27.5 points is just such a monster number. Anything that big makes me scared.
Well, one reason Tennessee had such healthy margin of victories last year was because, they'd go up in the Missouri game, right? It's the perfect example at Neyland Stadium last season. And then you're putting in Joe Milton and the likes of Squirrel White and and those guys that back up the starting wide receivers, and you want to see what you have. You want to see where Joe is at in his development. So you're bombs away, right? You're trying to get a playoff spot. So it'll be interesting to see what they would ask of Nico if thrown into that situation, especially in a week 1 scenario on literally his first college football environment ever of his career. I don't know. I don't know if they would continue to try and light up the scoreboard despite a 30-plus point differential, whatever it might be.
615-737-1045 is how you join the conversation. I anticipate Malik will join us a little closer to noon, given that the quarterbacks are going to hang out on the field and continue to throw for a little bit. I think him, Lucas, you can see a little better than I can. Levis looks like he's running sprints, but Malik and Tannehill look like they're taking some reps.
No, you had it the other way around. Tannehill is the one running.
Oh, Tannehill's the one
Yes.
running laps. Okay?
Yes.
Or not running laps, but running sprints. And Levis and Willis looking like they're throwing. See, this is why I can't do play-by-play practice. Well, we can. We could do it up there. I can do it. Hell, even I could do it from up there. It's just the sight line's so much better. But I think that for today, some things worth noting out of Titans practice. We'll get you updated with the latest. And Mike Vrabel's over here signing autographs right now. I'm sure when he's done, he'll make his way over to the practice facility. Oh, no, bud. You've been screenshotted. Would you like to see that you can see
the moment.
the sequence by the moment as you get just dunked on?
No.
Oh, no. I wish it was a Tuesday. We could literally do the oh, no segment. Look at your face. This is incredible. One of our wonderful listeners at iFloatOn2010 has tweeted us a screenshot from the live stream of literally I would say a gallon of water being dumped on your head. That was delightful.
That is well done. That is fantastic.
Unbelievable. So, you never know. This is why you can always listen to the radio show on FM radio if you like to, but if you want to watch how the magic of radio is done and all the different trials and tribulations of what the hell it is to get something like this on the air.
We are out here in the elements. This is fantastic.
Out here in the elements. We're
frame by frame.
We're just bad at this is all it is.
That's fantastic.
No, it's not fantastic. Not today. Today is a disaster. Today, objectively, a disaster.
Oh,
yes.
goodness.
Like, I think Lucas is putting on a very brave face. I think I've been nicer to Lucas than I normally am just because of the circumstances, because he's literally having to do anything and everything in real time while I scream at anybody that'll listen to me or text people very, very vigorously that this is an abject disaster.
Give me one of those cigarettes.
And we need to be a more professional operation than this.
No, have we dropped off the air?
Not to my knowledge.
Jackson, blink if we're on the air.
We have not gone off the
Now you say blink. You got to say blink.
blink.
Thank you.
Literally. You see, I now see how annoying I am to you when you do these things to Jackson.
Read my mind. Yeah.
Figure it out. 615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion. So why don't we take a quick pause here, and then by the time we come back, Malik Willis will be making his way over, and we'll talk all about how his day on the practice field has gone. You'll hear from Mike Vrabel in the final hour of the show after the head coach finishes signing autographs live from St. Thomas Sports Park. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
It is 11:57. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica, live from Titans training camp as it is officially game week. The Titans' first preseason game of 2023 this Saturday in Chicago. The team back on the practice field this morning at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. Titans made one transaction over the weekend, signing offensive lineman Justin Murray, who played for the Bills last year and has 20 career NFL starts at right tackle and right guard. Around the NFL, free agent edge rusher Justin Houston has joined the Panthers on a one-year deal. The 34-year-old had 9.5 sacks last year with the Baltimore Ravens. And in the AFC South, an injury in Houston to Texans tackle Titus Howard, who left practice on Saturday. Head coach D'Amico Ryan saying he will be, quote, out for a while. He's fresh off signing a 3-year, $56 million extension. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Okay. Welcome in. It's the third hour live from St. Thomas Sports Park here on 104.5 The Zone. Practice is ended, and we got Malik Willis hanging out here with us at the 10. How we living, big dog?
Living lavish, bro. Keep waking up. I'm blessed, bro.
No doubt. No doubt. It's a beautiful day out here on the practice field. I know you guys have been getting after it. A little bit of wind, though. What was that like, kind of working through some, I know you guys have been working through some elements last couple of days of practice. Mike seems to want to emphasize that. But, like, thrown into the wind, how'd you feel like the work went today?
I think it was cool. We just got to, on both sides, get used to adjusting to it. Just like the rain the other day, you just working through certain stuff. Different passes deserve different touch, different ways you can put it in there, especially playing this wind sometimes on these crossing routes and in cuts. So it's just been cool to actually have to do it instead of just being perfect out here. Then you get in game time and have to think about all that stuff.
It's game week.
Yeah, it's game
Y'all
week.
got one coming up?
Yeah, we do, Saturday.
It's fired. You can hear it right here on 104.5 The Zone. Malik and all the rest of the Titans players who are out here competing on the practice field get the opportunity to go up against somebody different after now heading into week 3 of training camp at this stage. It's wild to me. I mean, it's not wild. I've seen a bunch of rookie classes at this point come in and get more comfortable, but it's crazy to me how much more comfortable and confident y'all collectively look, whether it's you, Traylon, Kyle, like everybody just seems to understand where they're at right now and what they're trying to improve upon and basically how to get there. Like, it seems like you guys have come in equipped with the tools.
Yes, sir. I mean, it's just, once you know how to do something, you can do it to the best of your ability. But when you don't know how to do something, you can't do it to the best of your ability. It's that simple.
Would make sense.
Yeah. But you don't look at it like that sometimes. It's a results-based business, so you want it to happen right now. But
yeah, but I mean, and for so many different lines of work, whether it's football or any different way that you would choose to, I guess, run that through the prism of, like, it is so easy to get caught up in that kind of situation where it is results based and is results driven. But, like, I know when we talk to Mike and your coaches, they don't coach the results; they coach the action, and the results will follow. Like, was there a certain point in time that in particular clicked for you in your rookie season, that you kind of understood where they were going with the messaging on that?
I understood the whole time, but as I was saying, I came from an offense where we weren't as much under the center. We weren't as much in the huddle. Having 10-word plays, we weren't doing that. So I had to get used to doing that. I had to learn to speak that language. I had to take just every aspect of the NFL game and try to apply it to my game. And didn't have enough time to do it successfully last year, but I'm not going to blame it on that. Just got to work harder, and that's what I did this offseason. So.
Well, it's a whole new season, and that's the beauty of it. Obviously you take lessons from those reps and things like that, as anybody does. But at this point, it feels like a fresh slate for everybody who's coming in who might have had their rookie season, like Kyle and Traylon, derailed for injury, or all the different injury situations that you guys had to work through and different circumstances that you felt like your class was particularly thrust into, maybe before you might have been ready. But the value of those live game reps, there's really no other way to simulate. I know preseason is as close as you can get, but like to have those starts under your belt at this point, everything else has to feel like just a lot smoother from this point on, yeah?
Yeah, it's almost no more surprises. You know? been in late games, been in games we went in overtime, seen games from the sideline with Ryan. We go up big, we go down big, try to how to bounce back. Just all those different scenarios and situations, and more than anything, that situational football. I think that's the most important thing that we needed to work on. Well, myself, outside of just first and second down ball, third downs, and situational football, because that's what the difference is in this league. Third downs and situational football, those critical situations, those one plays that change the game's outcome. Yeah.
Titans quarterback Malik Willis hanging out here with us. They've just wrapped up, I believe it's their 8th day? Well, at least the 8th day that we're out here for training. You guys probably had a few more hanging out here amongst yourselves at this point. But, like, that situational football element, right, how you've seen those different situations from multiple vantage points at this point. Mike structures the practices that way to best maximize your opportunities to take advantage of that situational football. How beneficial is it to have a coaching staff that operates? I mean, I know it's the only NFL coaching staff that you worked under, but how beneficial has that been for you in that growth and development process now that you've seen it in real life, in real time?
I mean, it's great. I mean, the way we prepare, how we have first and second down plays, then our third play in the rack might be a 3rd down and 5, and then the 4th play might be a 3rd and 8, a 3rd and 9, and you get to work through that. You get to understand what are we trying to do here, what's the purpose of this play, and how are we best going to execute it, and you get to think through that while going through an entire practice. You get to work through those first downs the same way, and then you get to the end of the practice where we go in 2-minute mode, and what do we need? We need a field goal. How do we best to get there?
I don't know if you remember sitting down here with me last year and me asking you what you were most trying to get up to speed with at the point, and you said the operation of the huddle and everything that you were kind of working through at that point. You must feel light years ahead of where you were at this time last year, kind of with everything. And I mean, just the command that you clearly have with your teammates at this point, it feels like, at least from my vantage point, it looks like night and day.
Yeah, it is night and day, and not where I want to be still.
Sure.
Still working, but it's definitely night and day. Definitely light years ahead of where I was last year. I was just trying to make sure I said the play right last year. Understanding what we're trying to accomplish through this play. So
I had Chig over here, and I was asking, like the rookie breakthrough moment or whatever, and he said, there's a moment when I went out there against Washington or Indianapolis, I was just like, do I know any plays at all whatsoever? It's just kind of, head swimming, and then once you get in the groove of it, you've been doing this your entire lives, obviously, and it all feels natural. Was there a moment last year where it felt like that for you, where you felt like you had kind of a breakthrough moment, or was everything, especially towards the end of the year, kind of moving so fast that maybe you didn't necessarily get that moment in real time?
I think it was in and out. I might have breakthrough plays.
Sure.
More than anything, but not a whole moment. I feel like the moment was this spring, just understanding what everything was going on and how it was moving, and just seeing enough football in this league to understand what I needed to be doing.
Pat O'Hara is somebody who, and now in a different role with you guys obviously this year, but having had him as a quarterback's coach and now working with Charles London, what can you tell the audience about Charles and what that's been like with all three of you working with a new position coach?
I think it's been awesome. We just find ways to work together. It's a partnership. It's not like high school or college. It's not like, hey, we're over you. It's like a relationship and work relationship with all of us, and we just try to get each other better, whether that's us trying to get them better or them trying to get us better, and we trying to get each other better. How
long did that dynamic of partnership kind of take to get used to? Because you're exactly correct. That is not the dynamic that is in high school and in college, certainly.
I mean, it takes a minute because you're not used to that, but once you understand, like, we're professionals at this point as well as they are. They're professional coaches. We're professional players. We got to work together and make this thing go. It's not, it's not a like head man runs everything. No, it's like we communicate. Hey, what are you saying? What am I saying? Versus and just coming together and communicating.
It's been really cool to see the way that you and Will interact with one another, just because, it's clear that you guys are building a friendship, even though there's obvious competition going on the field. How has that competition been, and how much have you guys enjoyed working off one another in the room and on the practice field now?
I mean, it's cool. You enjoy competition anytime you can get it. That's the only way you're going to really get better. Unless if you don't, you just get bored and you stay settled for what you got. And that's no way to be, So it's been awesome, though. Like you say, it's just competition on the football field. We got a whole life outside of that.
Yeah, people tend to assign an awful lot of. I mean, you probably have better perspective on that than most. No.
Yeah.
Just in terms of how people can assign that, maybe assign too much value of what's going on the football field and kind of extrapolate that to real life.
Yeah, I mean, it's our job, and that's what we love to do, and this is what we want to do, and we want to be the best at it. And that's all fine and dandy, but, whenever we get off the field, if he has a question, like, I'll answer his question, you know what I mean?
That was a whole deal last year.
That was all talk. He helped me out a lot.
It's crazy. I mean, because we're sitting in that press conference listening in real time, and went home the same day and looked at it on SportsCenter. I was like, what the hell? Like,
it wasn't even like that.
How do you pull that out of that particular interaction? But
negativity.
Now you've seen how that whole situation works in real time and over the course of an NFL season. How bad is Willett telling rookie jokes?
Yeah, them boys trash.
They're bad.
They class trash at jokes for real.
All of them.
Yeah,
so y'all were better.
They had a couple good ones.
Okay, so who's the best?
You got to ask some of the older guys that were here last year.
No, I mean, I have been, and they've been telling me that all of them collectively bad. Like, not only material, but like delivery bad.
That's the most important part, is the delivery.
That's what I'm saying.
Because a couple of them been good though.
Who was the best in your class?
Last year?
Yeah.
That's a good one. I'll get back to you.
All right. What are you about to do now?
We're about to head in, take a shower, get some treatment, look at practice, and get the meetings.
I won't keep you from it. Malik Willis, kind enough to sit down with us. Continued health and success. Always appreciate chopping it up.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
That's Malik Willis hanging out here with us on 104.5 The Zone. 615-737-1045 is the number. We got the benefit of having Greg Cosell of NFL Films out at practice. Greg has been taking in the sights and sounds here at St. Thomas Sports Park. We'll have Greg go ahead and sit down with us as we wait for the head coach at the podium, get a little pre-practice observations and see what Greg saw and who Greg talked to and how he feels about one day of work. We'll try not to get too over our skis with practice observations and extrapolating those things out. But always great to see the main man in person. Of course, you can subscribe to the Install Podcast wherever it is that you get your podcast. Greg and I are live in your podcast feeds each and every Wednesday, and now we are live on your radio dial. Hey, bud.
What's happening?
It's good to see you.
Man, that was fun.
Yeah. Did you enjoy yourself today?
I sure did. I'll be back tomorrow.
Yes.
It was a lot of fun.
I mean, so it's not like you haven't been to NFL training camps before,
I've
Greg.
been to a couple in my career.
A few
since I'm going into my 44th year at NFL Films.
Is it actually 44?
Yeah, I've been to one or two.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed 44 years old on you.
Well, I started when I was 5.
Honestly, I think most people probably believe that. But, so just, I guess, 1,000-foot view, Greg. I know you have a lot more refined details that you were seeking out today and things like that. But as you've seen a couple of different training camps, I don't know if you've been to a training camp yet this year.
I have not, actually. This is my first.
So what did you kind of make of the operation and how things were structured as opposed to what you might have been familiar with prior?
To me, again, I've been to a lot of training camps over the years. They're not, to me, a whole lot different. I don't think that I think teams tend to work on the same kinds of things. It just depends on what day you go. There was a lot of red zone work today at the Titans camp. I was really intrigued by that. Those are, for the quarterback, red zone throws are really difficult. And particularly when you have two young quarterbacks with Levis and Willis, and those kinds of throws are hard, especially as you get tighter. We call 10 yards and in the low red zone, and we usually call 11 to the 20-yard line, the high red zone. And those low red zone throws are really, really difficult.
Yeah.
Because, number one, the space obviously is less, so the anticipation and the timing has to be better. Very often you have to throw with velocity, and your ball placement has to be really precise just because there's not a lot of space. And I thought that I can remember a couple of throws Levis made that were really good. Obviously, Tannehill made a couple of really good ones, but he's the veteran quarterback. But that is really difficult work, but it's essential work because obviously this isn't a profound statement, Buck, as you know. But every team when they get in the red zone, they want touchdowns.
Sure.
And that's so it's a really important part of the game, and it's something that really has to be worked on. One of the things I learned years ago about quarterbacks in training camp. And I think most coaches probably think this way. You want to test the limits of what you can do in training camp because you don't want to get into a game and think, well, I don't know if I can make that throw.
Not the place to be finding out.
No, you'd rather throw a pick in training camp, and, of course, then the fans think, oh, it's a bad day because you threw a pick. But you'd rather do that and then say, oh, I need to throw that earlier. It was there and I was just late. Or that's not a throw I really feel comfortable making. So you know what? When we get in a game, I'm not going to attempt that throw.
Sure.
You want to know that before you get to the games.
I'm always so interested, Greg, and maybe it's just that, college football, it seems that people who cover college football, people who cover pro football to an extent, not people like yourself who are doing the analysis, but it almost seems like two different worlds at times, where I drop in on college football during the pre-draft process and things like that, and I'm shocked that, the quarterbacks aren't being coached on throwing to spots and timing and anticipation, because they're just trying to manufacture offense. So when somebody like even Trevor Lawrence at the highest levels of prospect evaluation is coming in and still having to adapt to that stuff at times, where we've just talked to Malik and obviously Levis over the course of the last couple of weeks and kind of seen them have to adjust to those things.
Well, keep in mind, and again, we've talked about this, but it's really worth repeating because it's so important. Keep in mind that the college field is different than the NFL field. So the hash marks in college football are wider. So the wide side of the field has a lot more space, and it's difficult to cover in college. So therefore, the precise timing and anticipation is not as required in college football as it is in the NFL. NFL coaches, I learned this, believe it or not, from Bill Belichick a long time ago, and I've never forgotten it, and it's infused my watching of both college and NFL tape. He basically said that the college game is played on the perimeter, and the NFL game is played essentially between the numbers, between the hashes, with the pass game.
Yeah.
And those throws in the NFL that are inside, there's a lot of bodies there, Buck. And you have to learn. That becomes a learned trait, how to make those kinds of throws. I mean, I talked, and you're going to see him in a week or so when you go up to Minnesota. I remember talking to Kevin O'Connell, the head coach of the Vikings, and he was a third-round pick of the Patriots. Played a number of years in the league, and obviously is a coach now. A head coach, did very well in his first year. And he played at San Diego State, and they played in a spread. And I remember him telling me that when he got to the NFL and he had to make throws in the middle of the field, he said to me, it looks like there's 15 defenders out there. Because it's different. So you have to, the concept of timing, anticipation, true timing and anticipation, becomes a learned trait. I guarantee Will Levis is going through that. I guarantee Malik Willis is still going through that. This is what you have to kind of learn at the NFL level, and it takes time. And there's different kinds of throws. We just spoke about the red zone, where timing, ball placement are absolutely. I saw Malik Willis make a throw in the red zone today, and he actually threw to the exact right guy. He read the coverage exactly properly, but you don't have a lot of space, and he put it on the back hip of the receiver instead of the front hip, and the ball just got knocked down. The defender, he just got his hand in.
Just right there.
And those are the kinds of things that you learn from those things. And Malik would tell you the same thing. You just spoke with him. He would tell you the same thing. You don't have the margin for error in the National Football League shrinks. So therefore, timing, anticipation, precise ball location become magnified.
It's a great pleasure to have Greg Cosell out here at Titans training camp with us. The head coach is going to be at the podium. So, Greg, we'll hear from Mike Vrabel, and then you and I will reconvene, and maybe we'll talk a little bit more about what we've seen at practice.
Talk about whatever
today.
you like.
Live from St. Thomas Sports Park, it's 104.5 The Zone. The Tennessee Men's Clinic will put you in a position to succeed. If you're starting to get up there in age, if you're noticing changes with your body, if erectile dysfunction is something that's made its way into your day-to-day, the Tennessee Men's Clinic can get you back to performing like you have not in years. They have an experienced staff who will help find the best treatment path for you as the individual, because no one-size treatment fits all. They have 2 locations to serve you, downtown Nashville and their newest offices in Cool Springs. A lot of guys wait a year or longer to get the help that they need for ED. There's no reason to do so. The Tennessee Men's Clinic will help you work through any negativity, any frustration, any kind of skepticism that you have about seeking the best treatment path for you. To find out more about all the different treatment options that they have for all the different things that they treat, go to the TennesseeMen'sClinic.com.
Welcome back. Buck Rising Show, broadcasting live from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. Kicking off preseason week 1 for the Titans this Saturday, noon kickoff at the Chicago Bears. Lucas Panzico with you. Buck, along with Greg Cosell, have sauntered over to the podium where Mike Vrabel is about to step up and speak with Titans media. So they heard from Chigakonkwo earlier today, who was on the show 2 weeks ago, I believe. You can go watch that video on the 104.5 The Zone YouTube page. And Kevin Byard was just up at the podium, said he's obviously biased, but he believes the defense has won the majority of days out here at training camp. I think most would probably agree with that. The defense has definitely been setting the tone on the days that they've been out here with the front seven and the pass rush in particular, but stands to reason that the pass rush is going to win some reps against an offensive line group still gelling, trying to figure out the right tackle. Before we go to Mike Vrabel at the podium, really the only absences of note today that we have not mentioned, this is from Teron Davenport. No sign of defensive back Chris Jackson, tight end Alize Mack, and offensive lineman John Ojukwu. That's probably been the most significant injury to this point to actually take place at camp. John Ojukwu left practice injured on Friday. Did not see him out here earlier today, the undrafted rookie out of Boise State, who figures to play a role in this competition for the starting right tackle spot, especially if you ask Mike Vrabel for the first 6 games of the season in which Nicholas Petit-Frere will be suspended. So Mike Vrabel is at the podium. Jackson Williams, our producer, just let me know if you see him up there, and we'll toss to the head coach at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park here on 104.5 The Zone.
Kind of steer it towards that, and he'll talk to you after the game, and I'll come back on Sunday and visit with you guys. So go ahead, Teresa.
Hopefully your absence isn't due to anything.
Oh, no, I'll be here. No, I'm going to be here.
So is it more to give Terrell the opportunity and exposure to acting as a head coach and helping that? I mean, and how valuable is that?
Well, again, that'll be something that you'll have to ask him afterwards. But I just think that him dealing and talking with the trainer and you know, again, we'll have a lot of conversations between now and Friday, but just handling things with the roster and discussing those things with the assistant coaches and how we want to play the game or letting them make those decisions in the game. And we'll go into the game with things that we think we need to try to get done, and I'm sure he'll try to do that, and I'll help him where need be. But I do think it will be a great opportunity, well deserved, and so this is something that I wanted to do.
What will you do?
Well, I mean, I'll obviously be involved and coach the guys on technique and help T where I can, or if there's a question or concern, but try to help him understand that role and what's required.
I know your hand was kind of forced when you guys had to do it with Stretch a couple of years ago, but was that a beneficial experience to kind of inform this one?
No, I think those two are separate. I think those two are separate. Wanted to be able to plan this out and talk to it and give T ample opportunity to prepare, for those meetings and his message and the direction in which he wants to take it.
How long have you been thinking about doing this, Mike?
There's some things that, try to go through these things in the summer and you get away from it and try to think, different things that you may want to do as it relates to training camp.
How do you think, you obviously know him well, and how do you think he'll do? Is it just something he's fired up about?
Well, yeah, I mean, again, you'll have to ask him, about some of those feelings and things like that, but I'm sure he'll do a great job.
What was the reaction like from Jeff and some of those big guys up front to the coaches?
Again, those are great questions for those guys later on in the week. I just wanted to inform you guys so that you guys can have an opportunity to discuss that.
What has stood out to you about him as a coach?
Just his ability to reach every player offensively, defensively. Great experiences at different places, and you always see him talking to guys across the ball or O-linemen or young players, veteran players. So.
How did this idea kind of come about? Because it doesn't seem like it's something that's been done a whole lot around the league.
I came up with the idea, like most of the other things we do.
You see some of these undrafted guys like Tark, Naquan Jones, the preview this year. How much has their progression into playing key roles for you? How much did that play into?
Well, sir. Well, no, I mean just the ability to develop and teach players, and again, it wasn't about his ability to coach Jeff Simmons or develop some of those guys. This is an opportunity that was earned and deserved because of the vision that I think I have, and his ability to reach, again, have conversations with all different players and people in our organization from different positions and different backgrounds, and so.
What about the running back?
This is Titans head coach Mike Vrabel at the podium discussing why assistant head coach and defensive line coach Terrell Williams will handle the head coaching duties for the Titans preseason game Saturday in Chicago.
They're all trying to find a role, and I think they're working hard at it. Protecting and trying to step in there. I saw Jay Ward today. Defense kind of had an overload pressure, and Jay Ward had to try to come back and save the day and stood in there onto Nico, and I don't know whether we'd have gotten it off or not, but Ryan threw it to Hop and completed it on third down. So again, their willingness to just react and play, and that's what you're looking for when the games start.
Is it helpful for you guys when the officials are out and Trey Avery tugs on Josh Wiley in the end zone, it's pass interference and there's no flag? Does that help you get used to the regular season?
Well, I think regardless of whatever is called or not called, I think just having them here is a good operation for us, for them. They can meet with our players, and I'm sure they'll look at it, and whether they think it was after the fact or not, we got to come back and we got to play the next play. And so I think it's good, it's beneficial for everybody. I thought he was competitive. He popped him in there at guard and was able to go in there and operate and function and act like a pro.
How's Chris Hubbard done since he's been here and kind of taken over, getting most of the reps with the ones?
He's doing good. I mean, he's working hard and trying to progress and push through. And today was a good day for conditioning, and there were plays where they moved the pile, and plays where there was some good pockets and good protection, and then other plays we'd like to have back, but. Just there was a lot of great situations that come up. We're down in the red zone, and different looks that they coach through, and just able to say, hey, listen, if we get this on this particular play, like this is how we want to block it, or just through the course of a lot of reps, there's just a lot of different little details that come up, and that's why you practice.
A little bit with Rutgers as far as his versatility goes, and maybe how many strides he made this offseason.
Well, I thought he's really worked hard this offseason. He's gotten stronger, and looks to be more durable in there and a little thicker and stronger to be able to anchor, and has played guard and even working some at center and different practices or walkthroughs and being able to play tackle. So we'll continue to look at him, and these games will be critical for Andrew.
How has Andre Dillard seemed to kind of settle in? He has some good reps today, and he seems like he's stacking some good days.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you liked the day that he had, Teron. I appreciate the evaluation. I do think that he's gotten more comfortable just being here, and I think he's gotten in better playing shape. I think you can go and run and do sprints and everything, but it's a long day for an offensive lineman. It's a lot of individual, and then you come over here and run some team reps and then 2 minutes. So I think the biggest thing has just been his conditioning and confidence to go out there and block these guys, and it looks like he's improved each day.
When you scream "gotta go, Malik" twice, and he doesn't get a play off when the play clock's dwindling, what's the disconnect there?
I don't think there's a disconnect. I think it's why you practice. This is early on in 2 minutes, and these situations are critical. So we'll make the corrections, and we'll explain it to them and make sure that everybody's seeing it through the same set of eyes, and that we understand what the situation is. And but there's going to be some of that as we work our way through. And would we like every 2 minute drive to go down there and kick a 30-yarder? Sure, we would. But sometimes that doesn't happen. And I think the more that you expose them to these situations that aren't scripted, those are great opportunities to learn. And then if we don't come back and get it the next time, then we'll have to figure out why. But now it's his first exposure at that situation, and I'm sure it'll be much better the next time.
Kevin Byard said that Armani Marsh was somebody that has been impressing him and making plays from day one. That ring true for you as well? What have you kind of seen out of Armani through camp?
playing nickel and quick and, showing up. So, again, we just ask our players to play, and, Rand and I will evaluate the positions and try to coach.
How's Elijah handling the variety of roles?
Okay. Yeah. I think okay. There was probably the most, we went in the call-it period. Again, I told you, came in there on Julius and stepped up in there and has shown some versatility, and, probably we'll get some work at nickel eventually and making sure that he's still good there. But I do, his ability to be out there, we're dealing with some of the things that he dealt with last year from a health perspective. I think he's continued to improve and get better.
Is your plan for the quarterbacks, Malik and Levis, just in terms of Saturday's game, kind of set, or anything they can do this week?
That'd be a question for Big T.
Are we going to have an opportunity to talk to him?
Yes.
Are we going to have an opportunity to talk to him before the game?
Yeah, he's on
Thursday, he's on the schedule.
Oh. He's gonna take one of these from you? Can he take one of these from you?
Saturday afternoon, he'll have you guys Saturday afternoon. He can take all of them if he wants them.
See you guys.
It is Titans head coach Mike Vrabel meeting with the media at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. So that's the news of the day coming out of Titans training camp for preseason week 1. Assistant head coach and defensive line coach Terrell Williams will put on the head coach's headset and act as head coach for the preseason game against the Chicago Bears. Vrabel will be there. He will not be absent. He'll be on the sideline. He'll be coaching guys up. But Terrell Williams, for one day, will be the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. That's really interesting, really unique. Not something I think we've seen before in the NFL. And you heard him asked about it. I believe it was Buck who asked the question. Completely different scenario from when it was, I believe, going into the 2021 season. That stretch, John Stryker, Vrabel assistant, had to put on the headset and act as head coach for a preseason game because of COVID. If I'm not mistaken, that was also against the Chicago Bears. So maybe an interesting coincidence there. But Terrell Williams earning that opportunity for Mike Vrabel. Williams had the assistant head coach tag added to his bio this offseason, a promotion that he earned within the Titans building in the offseason. So this weekend, Saturday, a noon kickoff. Of course, you can hear Coach Mack, Mike Keith, the Titans radio crew right here on the Zone. We'll listen in here. Terrell Williams' head coaching debut, so to speak, in the NFL. Cool opportunity given to him by Mike Vrabel. When we come back, Greg Cosell will sit down with us. We'll discuss the interesting news from Mike Vrabel earlier today and wrap it up from Titans training camp here on 104.5 The Zone.
Welcome back live from St. Thomas Sports Park here on 104.5 The Zone. The sun is out because Lucas is breaking down the tent. It's become a liability, and we don't want it to fly away with Greg Cosell in hand. So Greg is out here with us as we continue to wrap things up on the practice field. Greg, you and I take a particular approach on the podcast to the preseason. We are there to study traits of players and, certain situations that you can make takeaways from. But, to a certain extent, I think Mike Vrabel has just effectively articulated how seriously everybody takes the preseason with delegating to an assistant head coach at this point.
Yeah, I mean, every team's a little different.
We'll get Greg's mic up and rolling here in just a second.
Are we good? Can
We're
you hear
good.
me?
There
All
he
right.
is.
Every team deals with it differently, obviously. I think preseason has become less important to a lot of teams. And when I say less important, obviously they're evaluating players, and that's critical. Now, some teams are in a situation where they might have 20 roster spots open. Other teams are in a situation where they might only have 5 or 6 true roster spots open. My sense is the Titans are a team that does not have 20 or 25 roster spots open if you really look at their entire roster. So there's certain guys fighting for a limited number of roster spots. And, obviously we can talk about who the backup quarterback will be, the battle between Levis and Willis. That's obviously an important battle because you just don't know with the starting quarterback if he remains healthy. And obviously we know Mike Vrabel well enough to know that he is not a rebuilding coach. He's not looking at the 2023 season as rebuilding. This team, if you look at this team overall right now, they should have a very good defense. Obviously they've still got Derrick Henry. The fascinating thing to me is what this offensive structure is going to look like.
Yeah.
I personally think it's going to be different than what Titan fans have been used to the last number of years, which doesn't mean Derrick Henry is not a meaningful factor, but I would be truly surprised if Derrick Henry had 350 carries this season. I don't think they're going to play that way.
Yeah, no, I mean, it would make a lot of sense given what we've seen from Tim Kelly in years past. And I think that the presence of Tajay Spears, I'm going to keep doing that with Tajay Sharp, former Titans wide receiver.
Right.
But I feel like over the course of time, like that, him being added into the offense along with all the other skill position players that they have, like that dude wasn't brought in here for 5 or 6 touches a game.
No, and I think you'll see a couple of things to me are going, and again, I'm in one practice, but just watching tape for years and years, knowing Tim Kelly, the offensive coordinator's background, I think you're going to see more tempo in this offense, more no-huddle tempo. I think you're going to see more personnel packages, more diversity in formations. I mean, I would not be surprised at all to see what we call 20 personnel, meaning 2 backs, because Tajay Spears can detach from the formation and be a receiver. He did that at Tulane, and he's good at it. I think you'll see those kinds of things, but I think you'll see a lot more tempo. Again, Mike Vrabel's still the head coach, and we know that his belief in football is that it is a physical game and that technique is very, very important, and that's the way he coaches, and they will do that. But I don't think that that's going to be the weekly foundation no matter who they play. I think there'll be a little more diversity in their approach depending on the opponent.
Yeah, and that I think is the biggest takeaway. And you and I were talking about this a little bit on the sideline before the radio show started, and I had to dip out for the remainder of practice. But the idea of needing to scheme situations to the benefit of the personnel that they've got, that seems like an area that they could stand to improve upon. We understand their situation with personnel limitations over the last 2 seasons.
Right.
It's been a problem. But to still find ways to get your players in better positions to succeed, I think is where Vrabel's kind of looking around this season and saying, okay, we can stand to do a little better.
Yeah, and every coach talks about, we want to stay healthy. I mean, that's the first thing. But, I mean, if you look at what appears to be the wide receivers position right now when they go 11 personnel, meaning 1 back, 1 tight end, and 3 wide receivers. Now you've got DeAndre Hopkins, one of the best receivers in the league. You've got, I believe, a young receiver in Burks who's going to develop. No one can sit here and say what he's going to be, but he's going to be better than he was a year ago. And I think you've told me that has shown up in practice.
Yeah.
Phillips, number 18, the second-year player out of UCLA, is a true slot receiver. And I loved his tape coming out of UCLA. And I think if they were to line up tomorrow in a real game, those would be the 3 receivers and 11 personnel. And I think that's a significant upgrade from what they put on the field a year ago, where they clearly had some limitations at the receiver position. So, I think that this is just a better roster overall. Now, you and I both know that offensive line is, to be kind at this moment in time, is a work in progress.
Sure.
They have addressed it. They signed Andre Dillard. They drafted Peter Skoronski. They're moving Brewer to center. I was pleasantly surprised last week when I went through a ton of Derrick Henry runs, how well Brewer blocked run blocking wise. I didn't remember that because I wasn't truly focused on him during the season. I thought he did very well as a run blocker, and that was at guard. So now he'll be the center. So, they need that left side starting with Brewer, Skoronski, Dillard to be quality. Whether they're top 5 in the league, that's an irrelevant thing right now.
Right.
But if those guys can stay healthy and be somewhat quality, you would expect the offensive line to be okay.
Well, Greg, Derrick Henry is still a high-level player. We understand this. But as he ages, it would be beneficial for all parties involved, even if he's only under contract here for one more year. We'll see whatever situation that holds.
Right.
Is beyond everybody's control at this stage. But, as they try to help him age gracefully, where, you may notice him getting caught from behind a few times more. That was certainly the case last season from our vantage point in the press box. I wonder if you had the same observation.
Yeah, and I did. There were 2 runs in particular, and I watched a ton of his runs last week, that I thought, normally you wouldn't have expected that. He had a run against Houston. It ended up being a long run, but he got caught from behind by Steven Nelson, who doesn't run particularly well. He had a run against Kansas City, about a 50-yarder, I believe. Might have been his longest run of the year, but he got caught from behind by Snead, the corner. And normally you don't see that with Derrick Henry. Now, this is not to say that he's not a good player, but, I think what you're trying to do, again, he's still a very good player, and you want to get the ball in his hands. But now they have more good players on offense than they did a year ago.
Yes.
So, it seemed a year ago as if, hey, if it wasn't Derrick Henry, they didn't have much. Now it doesn't seem that way.
Yeah,
so,
you're speaking to a lot of Titans fans' souls at this point.
Right. So, you're trying to maximize all the players in your offense. You signed DeAndre Hopkins for a reason. They clearly felt there was a need at wide receiver, and there was. They didn't sign him to throw, to give him 50 targets.
Yeah.
They signed him. If you look at Hopkins' career, he's a guy that gets 120, 130 targets a year. Now, whether that specifically happens this year, no one can answer that. But this offense is going to look different. I feel very confident, based on film study, what I know about the offensive coaching staff, and what I've seen out here in just one day, because it's, you see certain things they want to practice, that this offense will look different.
So they had a lot of red zone work today in particular, and that seemed to be the emphasis for Monday. I know they had a little bit of a lighter practice yesterday when we weren't out here. But what were your observations, maybe particularly from the quarterbacks in the red zone, from what you saw?
Yeah, and I think, we spoke about this a little bit before the press conference with Mike Vrabel, that the red zone is just a different animal than the rest of the field, especially the tight red zone, the low red zone, 10 yards and in. And, there were a couple of really good throws by Tannehill.
Right.
Tannehill's done this for a lot of years. He understands what the red zone is and the kinds of throws you have to make.
But, Greg, I almost want to stop you there, because I feel like that has to be re-emphasized to the audience on a regular basis for their feelings about Ryan Tannehill. Just to hear somebody say, yes, he's a veteran quarterback. He understands what the low red zone is. He understands the spatial situations that he's going to have to take advantage of. Even just to hear that, even as we understand this is going to be year 12 for Ryan Tannehill, our audience needs to hear that on a regular basis.
Ryan Tannehill's a good quarterback. Ryan Tannehill's played in the league a long time. You and I were discussing, as we were getting here this morning, that, no one is suggesting Ryan Tannehill traits-wise is Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. He's not the kind of quarterback that necessarily on a week-to-week basis can carry an entire roster.
Yeah.
But there's very few quarterbacks like that. And I know because Mahomes has won Super Bowls and he's clearly on his way to maybe being in the pantheon, so to speak. He's got to play more, but he looks like that kind of guy.
2 Super Bowls, good start.
Yeah. There's not a lot of quarterbacks like that. So most quarterbacks need a team. And, Ryan Tannehill definitely falls into that category. So, but he's a veteran quarterback. He's got a good arm. He's still got movement to him. We were talking about the red zone. One thing they teach in the red zone is if you throw the ball at the edge of the red zone, the very beginning of it, you throw the ball low. If you throw the ball at the back of the red zone, you throw it high. And I don't know if you saw the touchdown Tannehill threw to DeAndre Hopkins,
yes,
where he threw it high, and Hopkins went up and get it. That was about as good a throw as you can make in the red zone, because that's a perfect example of that's not a clean throw. If he had thrown that ball, numbers high, it wouldn't have gotten there. It might have been intercepted, but he threw it high where DeAndre had to go up and get it, and he made the catch. Tannehill understands the nuances and subtleties of the position that the Malik Willises and Will Levises are still learning, and each day, don't forget, and Mike Vrabel talked about this, not in relation to the quarterbacks, but training camp is training camp for a reason. Every play is not going to be great. In fact, you want your young players to make mistakes. You obviously you don't want them to make a mistake on every play, but you want them to make mistakes.
Mistakes.
Because that's teaching. That's how you teach. Then you explain it to them. You talk to them about it. That's why now they go in after practice. Maybe fans think the day's over. The day's not over.
Not quite.
Now they go in. The coaches get together first because they want to go through the practice tape. Then they have meetings with the players. And then they walk through everything that they did today in relation to what they've done in days prior. And you hope that there's a positive progression. And if there's not, you've got to work through it with the player. Why are you continuing to do what you're doing? These are grown men. No one's in there yelling and screaming. You're trying to figure out, hey, how do we make these guys better?
Malik Willis, who was on the radio show earlier for the audience, I thought he articulated that well. Just basically the partnership that it is with your coaches at this level that he had to kind of adjust to, because he's high school, college. It's a certain kind of way with the coaches that you're playing for.
And he was the best athlete on the field, probably in both situations.
Correct.
So it's different. And now, he's still a really good athlete, but the NFL game for a quarterback isn't drop back and run around. I was talking to Coach Mack, had a great conversation with him today on about a lot of different things, some related to today's practice, some related just to football in general.
Sure.
Because, the guy's a wealth of information, obviously, and a wealth of knowledge. And we were talking about Malik Willis, and you have to understand, because I watched Malik Willis quite a few games when he was at Liberty his last year when he came out. I think I watched 7 or 8 games. And he was asked basically because he was a great athlete. It was a lower level of college football relative to the Power 5. Drop back, first read's not there. Hey, take off, run. You're a great athlete. You're the best athlete on the field.
Yeah.
You can't play like that in the NFL with any kind of consistency. So he's learning. Each day is still a learning curve for Malik Willis, because he was starting at a lower level than other guys. Someone like Will Levis was coached by 2 NFL coaches in each of his last 2 seasons at Kentucky. That doesn't mean he doesn't have anything to learn. Of course it does. But the way in which he was taught probably prepared him for the nature of teaching here more so than the way Malik Willis was taught, which is not Malik Willis's fault.
Yeah, exactly right.
Right.
Can we do this again tomorrow?
I think we can. I'm going to be here. Yes.
Well, in the meantime, Greg and I are going to go find one of the super trucks. We may get a pedal tavern. Who's to say?
Yeah.
But I always appreciate Greg Cosell hanging out here with us. We're going to send it on over to Blaine Bishop and Mickey Ryan for Blaine and Mickey. Josh Wiley, the rookie tight end, will be our guest tomorrow here at St. Thomas Sports Park, and hopefully Lucas will have a little more reinforcement so this man isn't out here getting ice bucket challenged in the middle of Titans practice. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.